We haven't done this before.
Yeah.
This is a great intro to our podcast.
New. Yeah, our new podcast that we just started right now with our new
brand new
podcast,
Casual Obsession, the horror movie podcast where we talk about horror movies, where we are gabbing the ghouls.
Oh, okay.
And what is gabbing the ghouls?
This is our segment where we talk about movies that we have seen in between recording segments.
Yeah.
Recording segments. Why the fuck did I say it that way? Episodes.
That's
Episodes.
Oh, God.
Oh, God. This is a rough beginning.
Okay, we're starting over.
What if we
giant
do a bit
clacker
where...
sound?
What if we do a bit where we act like Gabbing the Ghouls is its own separate podcast that just always goes before Casual Obsession? Clacker sound again.
Okay, no. I got it.
All right.
Whenever you're ready.
Whenever you're ready.
I was waiting
Clacker
for you
sound
guys to pull that shit. Okay. All right. Does anyone have any ghouls to gab? And for those just joining us, that is when we talk about movies that we watched between episodes.
Clacker sound again.
Oh my God! There's nothing else to do. You guys are overcomplicating.
Why don't we try that one again, but sillier?
Sillier? I'm not doing. You're not directing me. I want
to hear more smiling.
Let's let Noah try again.
Welcome back to everyone's favorite beginning of Casual Obsession, our little segment, Gabbing the Ghouls, where we talk about the movies that we've seen between podcast recordings.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
okay.
works.
Yeah,
that's
sure.
fine.
Yeah, okay,
that's
we got it.
Now let's do it again for real.
Clacker sound again.
God, okay.
Audio listeners won't know this. Video listeners also won't know this. I don't know why I said it like that. But this has taken us. This has taken us like 5 minutes to nail down, and we finally got our new intro.
Clacker sound
Anyway,
again.
we watched a lot of movies this week, and Nina's gonna open up because Nina has a movie specifically to big talk about. Let's go, Nina.
I have a movie to big talk about.
Big talk.
We have 3 movies to big talk about, but one that we all watched that we were waiting to talk about until Jeff had seen it was Love Lies Bleeding.
That's right.
And oh my God, Love Lies Bleeding.
God, I love Love Lies Bleeding.
I love Love Lies
very
Bleeding.
gay.
Mm-hmm.
Very gay. I was on the phone with my mom last night and I was trying to describe to her movies that I've watched recently, and I got through a couple and to this one, and let me just tell you, trying to tell my mom the premise of this movie, borderline impossible.
Yeah.
So, pro tip, don't try and tell your mom about this movie. There is no universe in which it goes well. But I will tell you guys about this movie, the listeners. It goes really hard. It's a weird one. It's very gay. Mm-hmm. And I had no idea what to expect going in. All I knew that it was that it had Kristen Stewart and Katie O'Brien. It was very gay. And I suspected that at some point somebody was going to die, but I did not know that for sure. I did not know about the lesbian bodybuilding subplot. I did not know about any of the other plot elements at all, or that it was set in the 80s. I didn't know any of that shit. I went in so blind, and then I made sure that Jeff also went in blind.
Yeah,
because I felt like that was
a trailer or anything when I went and saw it.
Yeah, neither did I.
I just knew lesbians.
Yeah, the only thing I knew was Nina told me lesbian bodybuilder romance. You'll probably like it, and I was like, yeah, okay, I'm in.
I went because Twitter Brandon wouldn't shut up about
Twitter
how much
Brandon
he loved
was
it.
really into it. Lots of talk about it.
This is a win from Brandon. Because he's right.
Yeah, 100%. It was definitely one where, like, the amount that he was unapologetically like, this movie slaps so hard made me excited to see it. Yeah. And then it obviously ended up being really, really good, and we watched it twice. I'm not really... I don't think we can really get into the plot more than that's part of why we went in so blind, is it's kind of hard to talk about this movie without spoiling it. So
it really is. And frankly, I don't think that if a lot of people telling you this is a really, really good movie, you should watch it, and the brief little snippets that we've tossed out like this isn't enough, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah,
it's really, really good though.
That's Emma, do you have anything
all-star
to add?
Performance from Kristen Stewart.
And from everyone, I think.
Well, from everyone
in
there,
this movie killed it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But for the camp of Kristen Stewart, you mean the Twilight girl? Shut the fuck up.
Yeah. You mean Kristen Stewart, the Love Lies Bleeding woman.
This was a movie I very much enjoyed. I have some minor criticisms of it, but overall, I think if you want like a really good 80s like movie in general, plus just like if you enjoy gay shit, like this is a good one.
Yeah,
It's
and
really
I
good.
think I think
Fun
some
fact,
of those. Oh, go ahead.
our best friend Adam Cesare, of whom we're talking about his book today, more on that later, has a review
Spoilers.
of Love Lies Bleeding on his YouTube channel.
Oh fuck! You know,
Gonna have to watch
if
that.
if I had been smart enough, I would have found his YouTube channel early enough that I could have watched that.
I
New
don't want to-
segment,
here's-
secondhand ghouls from the maker of the thing we're discussing in the episode.
Oh my gosh, it's perfect.
I will say that I think I've mentioned this when we've talked about books before. Books to me are as much as I want to know about the author is what's written. I don't generally enjoy getting involved with authors outside of the books that they read if I'm reading their books. Like if I find them on Twitter first and then I find out that they wrote a book, and that's different. But if I'm reading a book and then people are like, oh, like you should follow the author on Twitter and watch their YouTube, I'm going to be like, no, I'm good.
Yeah.
So I'm probably... I like my relationship with an author to be confined mostly to
The books they
reading
write.
their content. Yeah.
That
So,
makes
but
sense.
I might watch this review because I think it would be fun to get that opinion. Apart from that, the last thing I'll say on Love Lies Bleeding, Emma, the criticism that you had expressed, I think on a rewatch, it's not as jarring as
Yeah, I
it
think if
was
I
the first time.
knew to expect it, it wouldn't be a big deal.
yeah.
It's the fact that I didn't know to expect it.
Yeah, I didn't
Um,
find it as jarring as the Barbarian kind of stuff that happened in Barbarian.
I have thoughts on that thought, but I can't talk about those thoughts
'Cause we're not here
without
to talk about
spoiling
that
things.
movie.
So I
Yeah,
can't really
one-
do that.
Well, maybe when we get to an actual episode on Love Lies Bleeding in the future. I know that it's not necessarily a horror, but
Well, but also we
I'd
can
like
do
to talk
whatever we
about it.
want. We make the podcast,
Yeah.
so like,
and also I wouldn't recommend this Love Lies Bleeding to people who do not enjoy horror, I think that that's
Yeah.
kind of something that I would like say.
I would, but you do have to be into like dramas, like heavy dramas.
Yeah.
I think that's a
Yeah.
fair enough line to draw.
Yeah, and I think you have to be able to stand some gore.
there is some.
Okay. That is Love Lies Bleeding. We also watched Tetsuo the Iron Man and another movie with the same naming convention.
We is a strong word. Me and Nina did that, not the whole podcast.
Sorry. Noah and I watched Tetsuo the Iron Man and Hosera the Bone Woman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're both very good. I think it's kind of funny that we watched them both because they both not only have like the name convention being similar, but I think that like as far as like stories with strong psychological metaphors and stuff, it was fun watching them within the same week. The Bone Woman, I don't want to talk about it.
No.
Ouch, it hurt. I don't really want to talk about it because all of my feelings towards the movie are a little too personal. But I really enjoyed it. It's like very Babadook adjacent, and I've read some interviews with the director who talks about like how that was definitely an inspiration. I've read some essays and stuff that were in the special edition we bought. And I tried to talk about that one with my mom as well, and I got the vibes that that was a mistake. So I'm just going to sit
gosh.
on that one.
I mean
that's
this with all
okay.
the respect in my heart. I don't know why you thought it would be a
No,
good
no,
movie
no,
to
no.
talk to
It
her
wasn't a
with.
mistake in the way that you probably are thinking it was. It was mostly that she's like, oh, maybe I'll watch that. And I'm like, please don't.
That's why I don't talk about anything I watch with her. I don't want her to watch any of the shit I like because I don't want to have to defend the shit I like.
Yeah,
that's
that is
why I
the thing.
podcast about it. There's no dialogue. This
You're
is a
telling
monologue.
me that Nina's mom doesn't listen to our podcast and specifically the ghouls segments and doesn't watch all of the things we watch?
Yeah.
Embarrassingly, I do have to say that.
Friendship
Oh, no.
ended with Nina's mom. Now people who
Speaking
actually
of the
watch
things
the
we
movies
watched-
are my new friend.
This is my time to cut in. Before Nina talks about Tetsuo the Iron Man,
I'm
I
not
would
going to. Go ahead.
I would like to talk about why we watched Tetsuo the Iron Man.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
what's with that?
I watched Ichi the Killer because it has been a peripheral knowledge movie for me for a very long time.
Right.
And I don't know why. Before I even knew who Mike was, I knew about this movie. I think I had thought it was just about some like edgelord anime boy. I also made the incorrect assumption that I believe many people did, that the guy on the cover is Ichi the Killer. That's not Ichi the Killer.
Oh.
Yeah, I know you wouldn't know that. But you know, I read an article though about the movie which mentioned that one of the guys in the movie is played by Shinya Tsukamoto.
Right.
And he is in the movie because Mike cites him as one of his like primary inspirations in how he does his shit. And I'm like, oh, well, I'm very interested in this because Mike is an artist that I'm getting more and more interested in conceptually, just because he's fucking out there, man. He's wild, you know? And
well, yeah, if he's
I go to
inspired by
Letterboxd,
Sugimoto, then like,
right? So I see, oh, what did Tsukamoto make? And right at the top of the his most popular movie, Tetsuo the Iron Man, and I'm like, well, I've heard a lot about that too. And I tell you, 100% makes sense. I hear, oh, this man is an inspiration to me. I see that movie. I'm like, yeah, no shit.
I've only seen Audition because that was Mike, right? I've only seen Audition from Mike, and I liked it, but I think I was in the wrong headspace to watch it. There are a lot of movies that I watched before we did this podcast that I think I would have benefited from, like, just the discussions that we've had on this podcast and helping the way that I think about horror media and movies specifically. And I'd like to rewatch Audition, but I really liked Tetsuo the Iron Man. I don't know. It's not even like a hard movie to discuss or anything. I just would love to talk about it with more time, because I think that once I get going, I'm gone on this one.
Yeah, I get that for sure.
So, yeah, but I definitely enjoyed it. Wasn't sure what to expect. I've heard a lot about it. It's one that all you ever hear is that it's really weird.
Yeah.
And it was,
fair.
but it definitely is. It's definitely very, very, like, unconventional. It definitely reads more as like an art piece. The storytelling is a lot more. This is the thing, right? Is people tell me, oh, these movies are weird, and then I go in expecting something completely nonsensical. The story was pretty straightforward and the themes were pretty like open. So
yeah, no, it's pretty blatant about what it is. Like we read a summary first because we heard it's a hard movie to follow, and the summary was way more vague than the movie is.
Yeah, the summary was like it's implied, and it's like no, the movie pretty much says it.
Actually,
yeah, there were a couple things that it was like, oh, it's implied that this or that, and then it's like that's not an implication. That's just
it's you have to be ready to read is the thing.
It's 67 minutes long. And if you don't sit through the entirety of the credits so that you can hear that banger ending song, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
But you can tell that they made this movie with about $13 to their name, and it looks so good because they're shooting it on the crustiest black and white film you've ever seen. Except sometimes when it's really, really clean and clear, but it hides the makeup really well.
Makeup looks really cool.
It's a good looking movie, and it's really out there and fucking intense.
I love it just as like an aesthetic piece, personally.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, no, I would happily pick this one up at some point. One that I am less happy that I picked up though is Luciferina.
It's where Satan is a ballerina, right?
Unfortunately, no. That's Black Swan. I think I've never seen Black Swan.
Okay, so this is,
I thought the what is it? The Luciferinians? I thought they were the ones who like grew their hair out really long and smoked weed all the time.
No, you're thinking of the Mesopotamians.
What?
What?
Okay.
I'm talking about a movie. So I think Luciferina is generally poorly rated by people that do not speak Spanish. I think that there is a non-zero chance that contributes to a lot of the very low ratings for this movie.
I'll be the judge of that.
Well,
I didn't watch it.
All of the Portuguese reviews I have read are like generally middling positive. All the Spanish reviews are middling positive, and the English reviews are, what the fuck was this? That was weird.
Yeah, American audiences just don't like to read subtitles. All right.
Also, I'm going to be honest, you got to be Catholic enough to appreciate what they're shooting for, but not Catholic enough to be like, that's not how that works.
Yeah.
You know, there's that fine line, but it's a lot of fun religious shit going on. The Catholics really popped off with exorcism.
I was about to say, on a scale of, I can't even think of a boring exorcism movie. I guess The Exorcist Believer to The Pope's Exorcist. How fun is this?
I've never seen The Exorcist Believer because when we went to go watch it was not streaming. The Pope's Exorcist is really, really fun, though. This is not fun like that. This
Bummer.
is, frankly, not just because they're both Argentinian, but this is a more When Evil Lurks aligned than Pope's Exorcist aligned
Okay.
Sure.
movie. The exorcism at the end of the movie is sex based.
Oh,
Kind of fun.
Sexorcism.
Yeah, sexorcism.
Thank you, Jeff. Someone had to do
when
it.
she's on top, Jesus is winning. When he's on top, the devil is winning.
Just like
Oh,
real
But
life.
I had fun with it. The movie was actually like pretty enjoyable.
That's-
I rated it 3 out of 5. It's like, it's not bad. It's just, it wasn't as good as I was hoping. Maybe I led into it in a stronger way than I meant. Maybe I should have said movies I regret picking up, RoboCop remake, because that was actually bad.
There's nothing to even say
There's
about
nothing
that
to
one.
say
It just
about that.
sucked.
Ah, bummer.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah,
I remember
it
when that
just
came out.
me too.
I remember vaguely when that came out. I just think that it's not as, like, it's another one of those one where it's like, why do we remake this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If it was the only RoboCop movie, I'd be like, yeah, that was fine. I probably wouldn't have rated it 1.5 out of 5. But if it was the only RoboCop movie, then we would not have gotten the RoboCop remake. Now, would we? Because it would have been forgotten because it sucks.
Yeah.
It has nothing to say.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. Who other ghouls? Who's got
I
ghouls?
want to step in because
Ooh.
I have a related thing to Catholicism and
Ooh.
Luciferina. So in my journey of showing a VTuber and their community horror movies and horror
Yeah.
media to get them to like horror, we're at the point where this VTuber just loves horror stuff now,
Hell
which is
yeah.
incredible, and I'm so thankful. If you haven't been keeping up with our journey so far, I started introducing her to the Mike Flanagan shows. So we started with Hill House.
Let's
and
go
then,
Flaniverse.
On the evening of Easter, we decided to watch another show, and I ran with an Audible, and we did Midnight Mass.
What
so
timing
we,
for that
Topical.
choice?
yeah, for real. So we ended up watching like 3 episodes the first night and then 2 episodes the past 2 nights. So we finished it last night and they loved it, but also watching it, I realized like, oh, there's a lot of information about Catholicism that is not general knowledge for most people. And I was like, I'm having to explain some of the symbolism and various other things like pretty frequently so that this makes sense to this VTuber. But it was still a great experience. They had a great time. I had a great time. It was a lot of fun. And we jumped into the first episode of Bly Manor after we finished Midnight Mass. And now she's really excited about that one.
Nice.
So
Yay!
dubs
Bly
all
Manor.
around.
Hell yeah.
Big dubs.
But that's my only ghoul.
All right.
It's a good
all
ghoul,
I
though.
got.
I mean, it's an 8-episode ghouls, so I suppose we'll excuse it. All Emma did was watch 8 hours of television.
Is that
Yeah.
all? So I've got like 4, 5 ghouls. I'm not going to spend a
Oh
ton
my
of time on
gosh.
them. Well, one of them was Love Lies
Rapid
Bleeding, which
fire.
we've already talked about. I really, really loved the soundtrack and the like lighting and cinematography on it, though, which we hadn't mentioned earlier. The
soundtrack
movie
was
looks
so
and
good.
sounds
Oh, yeah.
just fucking fantastic. I love it.
It really does.
Beyond that, I watched How to Blow Up a Pipeline, which I'd been interested in from seeing trailers when it came out. I don't want to say too much about it. I think it's solid. I think it does what it's doing and interacts with all its ideas fairly well. Would be interested in hearing other people's thoughts on it if any of you end up watching it. I rewatched Boskin for the first time since
Boskin?
whenever the first time that I watched it was. Boskin, it's spelled Baskin. It's a Turkish movie. It is directed by Can Evrenol, who I'm intending to watch some of his other stuff now because I loved this movie the first time that I watched it. I don't remember how many years ago now. probably like 2019, I would bet, actually. Maybe 2020, potentially. But I think it was like 2018, 2019 when I watched it. Really, really solid. I love it. It is, I think it holds up to the rewatch. It's got a ton of religious subtext that I wish well, not subtext, straight up theming that I wish I understood better, because it's just all Islamic and like Zoroastrian in its basis, rather than being the kind of Christian stuff that I'm familiar with seeing, right? So there's a lot that I don't get about it, but I fucking love it. It does a lot of things really, really well. Shit is fucked. It is absolutely fucked, and it looks incredible. It's just, it's a really good movie. It's on Shudder currently. I think it's very, very much worth a watch. Also, last night I watched Sam Raimi's Drag Me to Hell for the first time. Normally I like Sam Raimi. I think this one might actually be his first, like, miss for me.
Multiverse of Madness wasn't a miss for you?
I didn't watch it, so no.
They didn't watch that, but you know who did? Their spouse, which I think is incredibly funny.
And she said it was horrible.
Yeah, it's not good.
So I believe that. But in terms of his movies that I have actually seen, this is the first one I think to actually, like, kind of let me down. And I do think a big part of my problem with it is the fact that the upload of it that they're using on Shudder is the one that they use on AMC Plus, that they have, like, fade transitions edited in so they can put ads in it. And that fucking wrecks it. It makes it feel like watching a made-for-TV movie that just doesn't have the ads in it, which is bullshit. It's actually shit practice that they would do something like that. So that may be what kind of wrecked it for me, but also it just, like, I don't know, I felt like it didn't really do anything for me. I don't know, maybe that's a me problem, perhaps, I don't know. But
we'll find out. Noah and I are going to watch it sometime soon too.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what you guys think of it. I just wasn't really wowed by it. The last one that I've got that I'm, again, not going to say too much about because I've talked about it on the podcast before. I rewatched Mandy, like, again. It's like another Suspiria for me at this point. It's just a throw it on, watch it anytime kind of movie for me by now. I love it. It's just really, really good.
We do still need to watch that one.
You do need to.
Okay.
That's all I
hate
got.
to cut in, but I have one more ghoul to gab.
Oh my god.
Oh my gosh.
So, and this is a book ghoul that I was saving specifically for this podcast because it's our yearly book review. So I was gifted a book this Christmas called Between Two Fires. It was apparently I didn't know this. It was like a Hail Mary pull from Noah when Linda asked what I wanted. Which is so funny because I had never heard of this book before. Noah just saw it and was like, oh yeah, that one probably. Which is so fair because the cover is a little man with a skull face and armor and a really cool medieval font just on, like, stark red, and it says, like, a medieval horror on it, an epic medieval horror or some shit.
Yeah, that is very your vibe.
Yeah.
It is.
It was not a full Hail Mary. I feel the need to asterisk that.
No, it was a Hail
I
Satan,
saw
if
someone
anything.
who I trust on Twitter recommending it.
I did not know that. Who was it?
Trevor.
Twitter Brandon.
Oh, well,
Henderson.
if Trevor
no, Twitter
Henderson
Brandon
liked
doesn't
it.
read. Yes, he does. That's a very rude thing for me to say. I'm sorry, Twitter Brandon.
Trevor
I know
Henderson,
you listen to this.
I have also got another book that Trevor recommended that I need to read, but this one was so good. It's been a long time since I read a book and, like, genuinely, like, I don't know. I just fell in love with it. It's not even. It is dethroned Revelator for favorite book that I've read in the past 5 years.
Oh, sorry,
Nice.
Daryl.
Wow.
Sorry, Daryl.
Daryl, we
sorry,
know you're
Daryl.
still listening to our podcast. We appreciate you.
I sure hope
you're
2
not.
years
Later. Oh my god.
Take a shot. We said hi, Daryl.
Yeah. But I really, really loved it. It's about, to give a brief non-spoiler synopsis, it is about a kind of disgraced knight who finds this girl who has survived. It's during the Black Plague or a plague, and she has survived it, and she's alone in a house, and something is super duper wrong with her, and they're not really sure what.
This sounds exactly like Shrek.
Oh shit, it does.
How does that sound like Shrek?
How does it not?
There's a knight.
And he's disgraced.
And he's disgraced. And
Much like
there's a girl who survived a plague. In this case, it's a dragon. And there's something mysterious going on with her. She turns into an ogre.
You're right. It does sound just like Shrek.
Yeah, it's exactly the same.
Yeah, totally. Anyway, it's really, really good. It's very like it does medieval horror really well without being hard to read, which I really appreciate. That was something I was a little scared of going in, because I do like things that are kind of on the tougher side of like prose and stuff. And that's kind of what I thought would come with the territory of being medieval horror, but it was very easy to read. It's very heavy on like using implication to kind of let you have that aha moment as a reader in a way that led to some moments that were really cool and some moments that absolutely tore my heart out. So I would highly recommend it. I actually am already excited to reread it because I started it in February, and then I got to a point in March where I knew that things were wrapping up and I knew that things were going to get really intense. So I took a break and I came back to it. And I'm really glad I took a break because it absolutely just slam dunked me into a puddle of tears. So 10 out of 10 would recommend if you like religious horror, medieval horror, horror in general.
Pretty cool.
Nice.
That's it for me.
Hell yeah.
Maybe I'll read that after I finish reading Clown in a Cornfield 2, Friendo Lives.
That's next on my list as well. Spoiler alert for whether or not we liked Clown in a Cornfield 1.
Yeah, when I'm done reading this, I'm gonna
I'm hate reading it, obviously.
Oh yeah, terrible. When I'm done, well, now that I am done with Clown in a Cornfield, I'm gonna try and finish We Have Always Lived in the Castle by Shirley Jackson, which I'm in the middle of.
Oh, okay.
Took a break from it to read Clown in a Cornfield.
Is that another book that's like Shrek?
Well, you know, it does feature a main character who is reviled by the nearby townsfolk and therefore lives far away from them, who resents the presence of others in her home. I mean,
that sounds like Shrek.
It's not so different. She hasn't gone on a quest for a princess yet, but also a talking donkey hasn't yet shown up, so I don't know. There's plenty of time.
Still more book to read. You never know what's going to happen.
Hello, and welcome to Casual Obsession, the horror movie podcast where we talk about horror books. It is time for our annual book review that we started as an April Fool's joke back in 2020. Was it 21 or 22?
22?
It would have
because this is the third one, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay, so in 2021. And now it's 2024, and we are talking about Clown in a Cornfield.
No, it would be 2022.
Yeah. 2022. We're talking about Clown in a Cornfield.
24.
Yeah.
It's our third book.
Okay. It's Clown in a Cornfield.
It's Clown in a Cornfield.
It's Clown in a Cornfield.
Yeah. Well, welcome back. I am your host for today, one of your hosts, Nina.
I'm Noah, your other host. Sorry, I'm trying to spell friendo, and it just doesn't look right. I'll figure it out.
It's F-R-E.
Yeah, they spell it without the I in the
out.
book. Yeah.
Yeah.
Classic Adam mistake, confusing me.
Yeah, consistent
Adam.
typos throughout the book. He spells the name of the clown wrong every single time.
Crazy.
Who are our other hosts, though?
Our other hosts.
There are more voices here. There are more voices, and I don't know their names. Oh, no.
Are these voices in the room with us right now? Is one of them...
I'm Emma.
Thank you, Emma. Thank you
I
so
am
much.
Jeff.
Brother.
Sorry. This time again, we're talking about Clown in a Cornfield, and to give you a quick synopsis of what that is about, it's about a girl named Quinn going to a small town after growing up in Philly, because her doctor dad got a job there, and you got all the typical new person in town things, getting to know the different cliques at the school and whatever, and also the weird clown mascot on the side of a barn that everyone in the town has opinions about, and then maybe people start dying,
Maybe, though.
Maybe.
We're not sure.
Maybe there's a clown in a cornfield, but who's to say until we get to the spoiler synopsis? Yeah. Like, I don't think that we've done this with books. I don't remember if we've done this with books before, but I don't really want to get into like critical ratings for books here today. I think we'll just stick to our own ratings, if that's okay with
Yeah,
everyone.
we've never looked up critical numbers on books.
Ebert never
I
read a
don't
book,
know.
so
Ebert has never read a
book.
What?
I'm not trying to disparage a dead man, but I don't think Ebert ever read a book in his life.
And I also don't remember, I should have listened to one of our other book episodes before I came into this, because I don't remember if we do out of 5 as is on Goodreads, or if we stick to our out of 10 rating for this.
I think we've always just done out of 10.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, so does anyone else want to start? Do you want me to start with the personal ratings
Hey,
here?
host privilege.
privilege,
You
you
can
get to pick.
delegate this shit.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll go first.
Whoa!
Whoa,
Bold move
my
from
God.
Nina.
Okay.
Oh
bold
my
strategy.
God. You said I
could do what I wanted.
That's true.
Not
that's
like
true,
that.
But nobody does that.
Well, I'm doing it. I gave this book a 4 out of 10 on Goodreads, so I will say I think 8 out of 10 or 4 out of 5. So it's an 8 out of 10.
I was
It's
like
pretty
a
solid.
4 out of 10.
No, God, no. I really enjoyed this book. I think that for me, when it comes to my Goodreads ratings, I'm really inconsistent. Sometimes it gets a 5-star because I think it accomplished everything it was going for. Sometimes it gets a 5-star because it blew my socks off. But knocked my socks off. But with this one, it's just it was really good. I had a lot of fun with it. It doesn't necessarily do anything like shocking or surprising or anything like super new or interesting for someone who has read a lot of horror or watched a lot of horror, but I think that is absolutely perfectly fine in this case. So I enjoyed it a lot. 8 out of 10, real solid book.
Who's going next, Nina? Call on somebody.
Yeah, you call on someone.
Jeff.
I was thinking of giving it either an 8 or a 9, I think. I feel like everything that it does, it's doing real good. I think there are a couple of things that I would like to see it do just a little bit differently, but they're not huge things for the book. I think it's really, really good. So I'm going to go for like an 8.5, I think.
Solid.
Very solid.
All right,
Nina,
Jeff,
who's
your turn.
going next?
No, Jeff gets to call on the next person.
Oh,
It's hot
shit,
potato.
it's Emma.
Oh, okay, awesome. So, I generally, when I read a book, I really enjoy the book, which makes me think maybe I'm just like bad at reviewing books because I always just
Mood.
enjoy them. However, last year's book proved that that's not the case because I did not enjoy that book. But I loved this one.
Sorry, Lee.
I had a great time with it. Even though generally speaking, when we watch movies or do whatever, we try not to talk to each other much about our opinions or thoughts or various other things before we start recording. But I was pretty regularly messaging Nina because Nina had already finished the book as I was reading it. And so I would be like messaging Nina thoughts. And one thing specifically that I sent Nina that I think is applicable to mention here is me and Nina both don't really like slasher movies. They're not really our thing. Nina famously has a separate scale for slasher movies because on a regular scale, they're not going to get over like a 5 most of the time. And so Nina has to like review them with extra like bias and consideration.
The slasher
because-
1-star bump, not because of love, but because of hate.
Yeah, for real. And I'm similar. Like, we've watched a lot of older slasher movies especially, and there's some that I've kind of enjoyed, but most of the time, they're not all that impressive to me. They're very straightforward. It's just like a person going around killing people, and you're showing off, like, the blood and gore and special effects.
Right.
And it doesn't speak to me personally a whole lot. But as I was reading this, and since I knew Nina's opinions already, I was like, do slashers just work way better as novels?
Right.
And I think absolutely yes, they do. Because
100% agree.
yeah, when you have like the internal like narrative of people like as they're being hunted down
Right.
and like all this other stuff, you just get to add so much more complexity to people's thought processes, their survival instincts, and also it just helps you get attached to characters way better than you would in a movie. I really, really enjoyed this. One thing that's surprising is this is being made into a movie. And
Yeah.
I just learned this right before we started recording, and I feel bad because I messaged Nina. I was like, there's nothing like so special about this from a slasher perspective that I think this could work as a movie. I was like, I think if it was turned into a movie, it would be very plain and basic and it wouldn't stand out much. So I'm worried about the movie. I'm hopeful because I really like the book. And I'll watch it, but we'll see. But I've
I'm
also been
hopeful because
I've
Tucker and
also
Dale's
been
director, you know.
Yeah, I've also been reading the second book, and I think that one would work way better as a movie.
Ooh.
But we can't get the second one as a movie without the first. So
Yeah.
that might
Yeah, so we'll see what happens. But I really liked this. I really had a great time. I immediately started jumping into the second one, and now I'm like 80% of the way through that. And yeah, I'll probably score this one a 9. I mainly want to say a 9 because I like the second book so much more. And so I'm like, if I like this one so much more, it means there's like room to grow on the first one in
Right.
some area. But we'll talk about all of that as we get into the spoiler section. But Noah, what did you think?
Well, you know, book reading Noah of 2023 has died and not read another book since probably like June. So this was my first book in a hot second. And there was a small part of me that was like, I can't believe I have to read this clown book because Dune had me all like ready to read stupid Dune
Oh,
books.
right,
You know,
right.
I'm so
Yeah.
ready to read Dune. I bought the first 3. I'm like, time to
Hell yeah.
Dune. And I'm like, I'm very resentful that I have to read about this stupid clown in a stupid cornfield. And then and then I read the book over the course of a day and a half. And I'm like, damn, I love this stupid clown in his stupid cornfields.
That's so similar to how I felt using my break in between two fires to read this book. I was like, okay, Clown in a Cornfield. From the name, it's clearly already like very aware of what it is. And I'm like, okay, well, this is what we chose to read. It'll probably be light. It'll probably be, at least it'll be an easy read because it's YA. And then I got into it and I was like, I am Boo Boo the Fool, to reference another famous clown, because this book rocks.
I'm imagining.
Is it Bobo? I think it's funner to say Boo Boo.
I'm imagining Noah sitting down with this book and just being like, I could be reading about worms right now.
Me when I have to read about cornfields instead of a rock covered in sand and worm shit. But yeah, no, I had a lot of fun with Clown in a Cornfield. I'm probably also going to hit it with an 8. I don't know. For me, books operate like, I hate when people do this with movies and just do it's either a 10-star movie or a 1-star movie, and there's no in between for me. And then you look at their Letterboxd rating and it's all max star or lowest star, and it's like, please do not do that.
Yeah, that's terrible.
But for me, I'm with books like a book is either a thumbs up book or a thumbs down book, and
100%.
nothing in between.
That
And
makes sense.
I think it's just because I'm not a book guy in the same way that I can pretend to be a movie guy. You know what I mean? Like, I've watched
Yeah.
enough movies at this point. I feel like I can be like, yes, cinema. But unfortunately, I haven't really read seriously since I was like 17. So,
I feel
but
the
I had a-
exact same way.
Yeah.
Same.
right? But I had since before I got a smartphone, that was the line that ended me. So regrettable. But I had a good time with it. I liked almost all the characters, and the characters I hated,
Turns out
I
there's
I came out on
reasons.
top. Get fucked, Matt. I fucking hated you.
That guy sucked the whole
Yeah,
time.
genuinely.
Right? Yeah.
I hated Matt so much. Oh God. Yeah, thank you, Adam. Thank you for writing the most insufferable guy that I've definitely met before.
And then naming him Matt to boot. That guy
Yeah,
is
no,
a
Yeah,
fucking
I'm
could
on top
not
of it.
I have ever
stand
seen
his
one.
ass. I was literally sitting here, light spoilers here, right? But I'm sitting here in the end act, and I'm like, obviously, I'm mad that some of these people died, but I really fucking hope Matt dies before the end of this. And then,
Yeah.
And then things happen, which we will get into. Yeah. Did you give it a rating? You said an 8, right?
yeah,
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
I don't know what could improve it for me other than maybe just the fact that it is a young adult book. So I'm like, this was a very easy book to read, and as if that's like a criticism of some
I
type.
love that,
It's
though.
supposed to be an easy book to read. It's a
Yeah.
young adult book.
Yeah, no.
Like I can second what Nina said. You know, it's not like groundbreaking work of horror, right? But that's a good thing because this is great to set the groundwork for. It's a young adult book. Cannot stress enough. This is for people who are getting into the genre, as well as people like us who already enjoy it. We look at this and we're
Yes.
like, damn, this was a blast.
Yeah.
New people can come in and be like,
Whoa, this is
"Oh,
a plot
this
twist
is
to me.
crazy."
I didn't expect that. Yeah,
Exactly.
I think that if you recognize the tropes, this book operates on those tropes.
Nina's jumping the
perfectly.
gun.
Yeah.
Right? I think that's going back to what Emma said. I think that the saving grace for this as a movie will be Tucker and Dale's director,
Yeah,
because Tucker and Dale is a movie that knows tropes, and this is a book that knows tropes.
Yeah.
So if that's the kind of movie it ends up being, is Tucker and Dale 2, this time it's a Clown in a Cornfield, I think that it'll be probably great if it has that energy.
I would support casting Alan Tudyk as Glenn Maybrook.
Yes, please, actually. Oh my
So-
God.
Glenn has already been cast.
No, who is it?
Aaron Abrams.
I don't know who that is.
Googling.
Have a sec.
I feel like this is a good picture of him. Hold up. I got you.
Oh,
all.
okay. Yeah. Okay. He's got the right face.
Yeah. I think,
Oh, that's a man.
That's
yep,
a dude right there.
That's a.
I think it
that can be a
works.
That's a
dad
real
for
fella.
sure.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
That's actually almost exactly what I pictured him looking
Genuinely.
like
I
in the
don't
book.
think I've
Oh, he was in
seen
Resident
him
Evil.
in-
Oh my god.
You love those movies.
I did.
Okay, so real quick, we want to run through some content
Who the
warnings
cast is
here.
Cole. Yeah,
Yeah,
actually, that looks
does look
pretty
like
much exactly
pretty
like
much
what I
imagined
imagined too.
Cole. Okay, cool. We're
This is
good.
great. I'm having a
All right,
great
we'll
time
judge
here.
the casting of the movie when it comes out.
Yes.
I might have a thing to say about the casting of the movie in the spoiler section.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I do have some content warnings to run through really, really quick. This book is pretty straightforwardly a slasher. It's got a little heavier on the gore than I was expecting for YA, to be completely honest. Some of the things described, I was like, yeah, damn, 100% cool.
Not that it goes into a ton of detail with any of it. It's just that it's like
It
it's
has.
there.
I think the thing that is getting me is that it has more standard, better gore than either of the books we've read on this podcast before. I think that both of those were more, as far as the horror goes, they were more into monsters and ghosts. This one is definitely a slasher, so it definitely leans further into the gore.
Yeah.
Just so you know, nothing big there. The only other thing is that this book, I don't want to. It says it on the back of the book, but I'm just going to re-emphasize it. The main conflict of this book does hinge on kids these days. So the main conflict is between the young people in town, the high schoolers, and the adults who believe that it's a very like typical small town drama. The youngins are ruining our town pride. They just don't have respect for the old ways type of thing. So yeah, if that is a conflict that you are not super interested in reading or don't want to kind of have to deal with kind of annoying older characters being mean to young characters and vice versa, this might not be it for you. But as far as that premise goes, it's operated on pretty well. I liked it.
I need to sidebar with my host for a second.
This is the most awkward sidebar. This is the most awkward sidebar, everyone.
Well, yeah, it's a spoiler, but you know.
Okay.
I do want to just call out specifically for the when we picked this book and when I started reading it, I thought it was a lot older than it actually is. Because we talked about how like, oh, there's this book that has a sequel, and then I think we also talked about how there was a third book out or coming out, and so I was like, oh, this series has probably been around for a little bit. And I thought that in my brain, and I was very surprised at, like, as I was reading the direct references to, like, Trump and the modern Republican Party.
Yeah.
And it's not, like, there aren't adult characters or anything going around, like, being like MAGA and like whatever and all of this stuff.
Well, but on the other
Well,
hand,
one does.
There's a reference, but a lot of the adults in the book do have like the attitude of a lot of like
Yes.
older
Yes.
MAGA people.
yeah,
It
Yeah.
is. It is very much that. It is very timely.
yeah,
Yeah.
it did come
So
out
if
in
you have-
2020.
Yeah, if you have issues with that, just a heads up. It's not
Yeah.
like delved into like super deep or anything.
But it is there.
And not to
But it's
spoil,
there.
they are roundly condemned as being stupid and wrong.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
you know,
Okay. I think that's about it for content warnings. Emma, do you want to do scary rating on this one?
Scariness in books is something entirely different than in movies.
Absolutely.
I have not experienced a book that has like shaken me to my core or anything. So it's hard for me to accurately rate how scary a book is because I haven't gotten scared by a book. However, I will say that I like the way this book handles its kind of more tense elements. The second book in particular does tenseness really well, and I've really enjoyed it. And the first book is like a great introduction to that. As we talked about previously, like as a slasher, this is pretty like cookie cutter. There's nothing like super unique or that makes it like stand out. It's just like a really well done slasher. So you have kind of people seeing the killer, getting chased by the killer, getting killed. There's not anything like terrifying in it, but I do like the author has this trick that I enjoy. Adam, that I really like. Good job, Adam.
thank you, Adam.
Hi, Adam.
Hi, Adam. Because like in movies, you have jump scares. You have things that like make you jump when they're suddenly introduced. In this, you play with tension where rather than describing scary thing and then having characters react to it, you have characters react to scary thing and then you describe what's actually there. And it's this neat little trick where it gets you as the reader like, wait, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
And kind of that tension plays in there. And it's just like, it's very subtle. It's a minor thing, but it works really effectively.
It really,
so there
really
is
does.
just a little
And I
bit
think it's
of
great.
genuine surprise in there for you still.
Yeah.
I would like to recommend you a book that I think will shake you to your core. It's written by the greatest author of
Okay.
all time, the Lord. It's called
Jesus
the
Christ?
Bible.
No.
Okay.
It'll change your
I'm
life.
Here's the
so
thing.
sad because I thought you were about to recommend me an actual book.
No,
I was
Listen.
gonna be like,
sorry.
okay, I'll read
The
it.
Haunting of
Not
Hill
to
House
slip
is really good.
Not to slip between two fires back in here again,
Yeah.
but there was a scene in I can't get into it, but it absolutely almost gave me nightmares.
Ooh.
It was really good. The descriptions were really good. A lot of the time I was like, there was some stuff that we've seen in horror movies recently that reared its ugly head again. And I was like, oh, fuck, this is worse than a book. So, yeah. Again, yeah. Okay. So, for the spoiler synopsis of this, the Wikipedia only goes about to where I got on the spoiler free. But I'm going to read it because it uses character names and I think it sets things up well. And then I am going to continue on from there really lightly. I'm not going to get into a ton of the exact details. We can just discuss
Yeah, we'll
them
get
when
there.
we get to the discussion section. Okay. Wikipedia. The novel centers upon Quinn Maybrook, a teenage girl who is a senior in high school and has recently moved to the small factory town of Kettle Springs, Missouri from Philadelphia after the tragic death of her mother. Her father, Glenn, has been hired as the new town physician in the hopes that this will allow the two of them to heal. Kettle Springs has suffered financially since the closing of the Bay Pen corn syrup factory and its subsequent burning due to arson by a local boy named Cole Hill. The synopsis doesn't mention this. Cole is the son of the man who owned the factory, I believe.
Yeah.
As a result, the town is at odds with itself, and strict lines are drawn between the largely conservative adults and teens who are more interested in having fun and getting views on their YouTube channel. At least the adults think so. Quinn manages to befriend Cole and his group of friends, including Queen Bee Janet, Ronnie and her boyfriend Matt, and Tucker after an incident during her first day in class. Their science teacher, Mr. Verne, sends them all to study hall, and they get to talking about their group and the town's eerie history, including the death last year of Cole's sister during a party. During the study hall, Quinn is invited to attend the town's annual Founders Day celebration, despite Mr. Verne banning them from the event. She's also invited to the subsequent party planned by Janet that's taking place in a nearby cornfield. However, things take a turn for the worse when the town's mascot, Frendo the Clown, begins to kill the town's wayward youth one by one. I'm going to say it right off the bat, now that we're in the spoiler section. It's Hot Fuzz.
It's very Hot Fuzz. I was going to say that, yeah.
Early on, I think in the scene...
this is a huge compliment, by the way, Adam.
Huge compliment.
Massive.
Yeah, absolutely.
You wouldn't know this, but we just covered Shaun of the Dead, and we were talking about how much we love Hot Fuzz.
Yeah.
I think
so
I got
true.
to the scene in the diner where Quinn and her father meet the sheriff, and I was immediately like, oh my God, this is Hot Fuzz again.
Yeah.
And it was. So basically what happens from this point is at this party in the cornfield, clown mascots show up with crossbows and saws and all this shit, and we slowly start to get revealed that there's more than one clown, and that they are specifically, we learn from overheard conversations, targeting certain kids, and that certain kids are supposed to be left alive. Glenn, Quinn's father, is kidnapped and held hostage to provide medical care to the injured clowns if the clowns are to get injured, which he does, but he does kind of in a half-assed way, which I appreciated from him. Thank you, Glenn. Meanwhile, some of the characters we have met are off. We get Tucker dies pretty early on. Janet does also get killed. She gets beheaded in a pretty harrowing scene of gore. And then as... Quinn and a couple of her friends are trying to escape, Cole, the guy that Quinn says she has a crush on, more about that later, gets taken by one of the adults, and it is revealed that Ronnie and Matt are actually in league with the adults. Whoop-de-fucking-do. Matt sucked so much, so we were...
Fucking hated Matt.
That fucking guy.
Quinn has acquired a gun from one of her neighbors at this point and is doing a pretty darn good job of defending herself. She manages to take out, I think, both Matt and Ronnie. And then we have kind of a showdown at the old factory where the adults reveal their evil plan, and that Cole's dad was in on it, which Cole had kind of been hoping was not the case. They're able to defeat the adults and get Cole saved. Cole makes out with his childhood friend Rust. Yay!
Yeah.
Nice.
And we get an epilogue of Quinn, Cole, and Rust hanging out at a diner discussing the harrowing events. Cole and Rust now dating, and Quinn being their bestie, just there to hang out. Yeah. That's pretty much it. Most of the things that I glossed over are pretty typical slasher stuff. A lot of walking around the cornfield, hiding from people, getting trapped in buildings and having to find ways out of those buildings, et cetera, et cetera.
And then there was the epilogue where we see that Cole's dad is still alive and escaped to Cuba with a Frendo the Clown costume and killed a pilot.
So funny.
And killed a pilot. Very, just out of nowhere, we get a Silence of the Lambs reference, which is very funny to me.
I do want to shout out.
Screaming.
I do want to shout out. Matt sucks.
Matt
all
sucks.
my friends hate Matt.
Yes.
But I did not see the reveal coming that
No.
they were
No,
working
me
with the
neither.
adults
I did.
because Matt
Fuck
and
you.
Ron. Well, screw
Clown
you, Jeff.
costumes, you know? There's a scene
Oh, they
where...
were wearing
Yeah,
clown
it was-
costumes.
There's
It
a
was
specific,
topical when it
There's a
hit.
specific scene where they're like hiding, and Ronnie is trying to get Quinn to hand over the gun. Quinn just looks at her in the clown suit that she's wearing and decides not to give her the gun. And at that point, I was like, oh, are they wearing those as like a signal to the other clowns to like not get killed? Is that what's going on here? And then a couple
Yeah,
more chapters
well-
go by, during which I was like, well, maybe that's not it. But like then when the reveal hits, it's like, well, yeah, duh.
Also, I think the one thing was when they were almost rescued and then Matt fucked their shit up.
Yeah.
God, that's when I wanted him dead even more than all the other times I wanted him dead.
That was one where when the reveal came and Ronnie was like, hey, good thinking, I was like, oh damn, that actually was good thinking.
Yeah. All of the stuff that they did, Jeff saw it, but I mean, Friend of the Clown is the town mascot,
right,
Ronnie and Matt were a bit of shitters anyway, so I was like, them wearing clown costumes and being weird isn't like out of character for them. But once the clown attacks started happening, all of the self-preservation stuff they were trying to do came off from like a reader standpoint of like, oh, these people are assholes. But like in a survival situation, it makes sense that they're like, no, don't open that fucking door.
True.
Like we're staying in here and we're hiding, and like all of this other stuff. It all made sense, even though from like a reader perspective, I was like, I hate these people.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And so when the reveal finally came, I was like, oh shit, that's really good. They did a good job there.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
absolutely. There are a lot of things preface, if the author is listening, I'm sorry. There are a lot of things that happen in this book where I'm like, is this intentional? And then it was, and I felt really stupid for ever doubting you, Adam. I'm sorry. But that's another, I think, symptom of both last year's book, where a lot of stuff that came off was not necessarily, I don't think, intentional, and also a symptom of my editor brain kicking it a little too hard every now and again.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But yeah, no, everything came together really well, and everything that I was kind of curious about did get paid off, except for one thing, which I am hesitant to discuss.
Why are you hesitant to discuss it?
Because I have a lot of thoughts about it. But I will say it functionally. I'm curious about Quinn's sexuality. Because I think we all talked about this aside while we were reading. Quinn thinks about girls a lot, and a lot more than she thinks about boys. Yeah. Her crush on Cole seems largely forced by societal pressures. She does think about him, but as someone who has kind of been there at times, but like I've been through a lot of self-discovery, in some ways it feels like she thinks she's supposed to think certain things about boys, and so she does. But it feels like she is being very intentional when she remarks on those things versus her thoughts about like Janet, which are completely involuntary, it feels like.
Yeah, where she spends like 3 or 4 paragraphs describing Janet's perfume.
Or her silhouette in the classroom.
Yeah, this is my thing, is the way that she describes Janet in her thoughts is very, very focused on her appearance and the way that she carries herself and all this stuff. Whereas I feel like her interest in Cole, I wouldn't even describe as a crush. It feels more like just analytical curiosity to me.
She describes it as a crush at one point at the Founders Day parade.
Oh, and she does, doesn't she? I missed that entirely.
Yeah, she has an internal... Yeah, no, she internally remarks to herself about how, like, I think it's something involving her like friendships that she's developing, and she's like, well, I hope that my crush on Cole isn't affecting that. And I'm like, girly, be so true to me right now, like, be honest, because that cannot be correct. But and this is not this is something that I remember expressing when we were going to read Revelator, was sometimes when men write women, there is a disconnect in trying to write attraction. And this is something I've discussed with friends who are trying to write attractions that they themselves do not hold. And sometimes it does come off as a little clinical. So this is something that but then when Cole and Rust start making out, and I thought about how Cole had been describing Rust after they reunited, and how Cole had been thinking about Rust and how much he missed him and everything. I was like, okay, that was intentional. So maybe the Quinn stuff is also intentional, and maybe we'll see that maybe this is just taking a little longer to build up. So obviously I don't know either of those things for sure. And it's not, if it is just kind of a side effect of the writing style and trying to make the author trying to make sure that we know that these characters are attractive and having to do that through Quinn's gaze, just making it come off as though Quinn thought they were attractive, not just that the audience was supposed to. That's fine too. I don't have a problem with it. I just personally the whole time was like, Quinn, you have a crush on Janet. Also the fact that when Quinn met Ginger,
Yes.
she was like, I have to say something else or Ginger's going to walk away.
Yeah.
And I'm like, girl, you...
Her attention is specifically on how do I get her to stay here for a minute longer? Like that, come on now.
Yeah, true.
There are certain things where I'm like, Quinn, you are going to realize something at some point. But that was something that I think we all talked about, which was cracking me up early on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Emma, if you know anything, you aren't allowed to say anything.
Yeah, I'm not saying anything.
All right. Well, I'm just going to quietly be looking forward to reading that second book. And
I have other things to do today, but I do want to start. So this is another thing, is that like
the second book's real good.
When we finished the first, when I think I finished the first one first, and I said in the group chat that we have for the host, I was like, I really would like to read the second one, but I'm going to wait until after we record the podcast because this is something that happens to me a lot with graphic novels, but it also happens with book series like frequently, is if I read them too close together, I start to lose track of what happens in which book. So I was like, I'll wait until after we do the review on the podcast because I also don't want to I don't want to do pretty much what happened with Emma, where it's like, I like the second book better, so it's changed how my like rating for the first book would be, was another thing that I was like, that will certainly happen. But I did immediately go out and buy it, and I am going to try and get it read before August so I can get the third one when it comes out, because I have not, this is another thing, I have not been into a series since I was like, since I was a teen, because like I've read the first, this is gonna take away all my street cred as a Sanderson fan. I have read the first Mistborn book. I have not read the second or third because I know what happens in them plot wise, and I just was not really interested in reading those events.
Ooh, fake
Boo
fan,
me, boo
fake
Nina.
fan.
I started reading the Stormlight Archives, and I was like, this is getting way too multiversal, way too fast. I need to wait until all the books drop, or I'm going to have to reread the first couple books every time a new one comes out. So I'm just waiting on him to finish those. So I just haven't, when I was a kid, I read like Percy Jackson and I read the Redwall books, and I would just be like, I read Beyonders by Brandon Mull, which is my favorite like kids fantasy series. And I read the first two of that one before the third one came out. And that is the last time that I have been waiting for a book in a series to release. It was when that, I don't know what year that released, but that was the last time. So it feels really refreshing to finish a book and be like, man, I am going to make sure I catch up, and I'm going to get that book on release day, and I'm going to tear through it. So
Hell yeah.
Big ups on that one.
Big ups, for real. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm really excited for the third book, especially with just, I'm loving the second book a lot. I'm not going to say anything specific about it, but in regards to man writing woman and how that doesn't work a lot of the times and how it works well enough here, I did want to talk because Adam, I don't know you personally, but you don't have any pronouns in your bio. So I'm going to assume you're a cis man, perhaps straight. I'm not sure.
Maybe Adam doesn't use any pronouns at all.
Maybe. I don't know.
/blank.
He doesn't have them listed anywhere. So but yeah, so I'm going to assume cis straight man, but like the major focal character of the book is a woman, and then there are other people in the second book that are also like pretty diverse. And there's also in this book, Janet is Asian and is seemingly like one of the only people of color in town, and there's like a chapter where she briefly talks about kind of her experience with subtle racism in the
That
town.
was interesting, yeah.
And I think something that Adam does well is he has these diverse kind of people or like viewpoints or whatever in the book, but he doesn't try to focus too deeply on like those differences. Like he's not trying to write like, oh, we're going to go through this character's like makeup routine, or like we're going to talk a bunch about how this character is experiencing attraction to like all of these other people, or all of this stuff. We're going to talk about like gender identity and sexual orientation like through this character's like narrative. He's just writing these characters as characters,
which is what I personally
and they're
prefer
just like
in books for sure.
Yeah, like every person's perspective to that person is the normal perspective.
Yes.
And he writes it that way.
Yes.
Which is nice. And I
really
think that it's what makes it work. And I think some other authors could take note of like, and I've complained about this before, perhaps on podcasts. I know I've talked to Nina about it, but when certain shows or movies like have a diverse cast, and then in like the script and in the episodes and in whatever, they specifically like make so many mentions to the fact that they have a diverse cast to like wink to the audience to show like, hey, we're diverse.
Yeah.
A big kind of like sin, I guess you could call it, or people who did this was like the like newer Doctor Who specials.
Yeah.
And as a queer person that likes like diverse representation and everything, but hates when shows and movies and stuff like put diverse representation into shows, but then constantly feel like they need to draw attention to it. It's like really grating and annoying and exhausting. It's like, just let these characters be there, let them exist, and cool, awesome. And this book does a good job of like having these characters be there, have these characters be like a normal thing in the narrative, and just letting them exist and not having to draw kind of specific
attention to
references or attention to like any of that stuff. It's great. I'm thankful.
I think my favorite example is when Rust and Cole start making out and Quinn's internal monologue, he's like, oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Good for them. And she just like, she's like, cool, 100%.
That's pretty much exactly what I was thinking reading that segment as well.
Me too, yeah. I'm like, me too, Quinn.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that actually leads me into something that I mentioned in the draft of my Goodreads review that I'm not going to post until this episode goes live. But one thing that I really loved about this book versus like a slasher movie is how much reading things through Quinn's lens and getting to see people as Quinn sees them made me give a shit about characters that I would not give a shit about otherwise.
Yeah.
Quinn does not think of people by just what they appear to be initially. Quinn she gives the benefit of the doubt a lot. She wants to think the best of people. She wants to see people for the complex individuals that they are. She wants to have her views challenged, and she does throughout the book. She's very open-minded, and because of that, characters that I might not have liked otherwise, I get to see their nuances because Quinn will see their actions and she will internally remark, "Oh, that's really interesting that they would do that. I didn't expect that, but I appreciate that about them." And that made me especially with Janet, a character that like a lot of times you get annoying or queen bee, mean girl, jock types who have redeeming moments at the end, but throughout the entire book I was like, there is something more to Janet. This is not a one-dimensional character. And part of that is just due to how Adam writes Janet. And part of that is due to how Adam writes Quinn and how Quinn thinks of other people. And not just Janet, but like the entire supporting cast.
Yeah, I feel like the book does a really, really good job of showing the process of getting to know people, the process of getting to know a place.
Yes.
Because we're constantly getting these little asides that Quinn is having like with herself, where she's just kind of like mentally cataloging and updating the information that she has about everything. There's always things that people do, like you were just describing, these little moments where she's like, oh, I just have to reassess the way that I'm looking at this person because apparently the way that I was seeing them before was incorrect if this is happening now. And
this is genuinely, and it's consistent about her because again, when she sees Cole and Rust, she's like, oh yeah, okay, so
yeah, no question. It's just like, well, yeah, this makes sense. And if I may hijack this point for a second here, this also feeds into something else that I think it does a really good job of portraying and discussing, which is people in small towns out in the middle of nowhere are not exclusively bigoted assholes, actually. There's a whole lot of regular people who just want to let everyone live out in those places. It's just you don't hear about them so much because they're not as loud. There's a lot of discussion in this book about how the young people of Kettle Springs are a lot more woke and open-minded than Quinn expected them to be when she showed up, and she feels a little bit bad for judging them so harshly at first. I love that. I love the inclusion of that, because that's something that, like, I consistently get really frustrated seeing in, like, you know, the kind of online discourse that this book is, you know, on the subjects that this book is kind of touching on. People are not open enough to the fact that that is reality.
Oh, yeah.
Some people want to get real judgmental of anyone who's not living in one of the most major cities in the country. And I'm goddamn sick of it.
Yeah. I think that this book does a good job of being nuanced about why teens are the way that they are.
Yeah.
Some of them are kind of shitheads.
Absolutely, as
like,
teens are.
As teens are. I liked Cole a lot because I liked how he never admitted that the reason he was lashing out was because of trauma or anything. He never said that out loud. He never used therapy speak to kind of get into it. But you could tell that's why.
Yeah.
You don't have to be a genius to tell that that's why he's doing what he's doing. And that his friends can kind of tell, and that some of them have latched onto that as an excuse to act out even more.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of them are doing similar things as well, right? Like, from what
they all
we get
went through
from, like,
that.
Tucker especially, we get a lot of talk about his, like, home life and his, like, parental situation and how dissatisfied he is with it, the kind of treatment that he gets from his mom and stuff. And it's like, well, yeah, she's right to be frustrated with you, but who did this first, actually? It's like, you know, it's clear that he's got an awful lot of problems that he's dealing with himself as well.
And I really like, this is something that I related a lot to Quinn because I think a lot of listeners know this. I grew up in the greater Seattle area, and then I have recently moved to a smaller city. And a lot of the adjustment, there's been a lot of adjustment. And the attitude in this city is a lot like the attitude in Kettle Springs, where a lot of the older people think that the younger people don't have any pride in the city at all. But then I talk to the younger people, and they fucking do. And this is true of Kettle Springs as well, is like, all the old people think that the young people in Kettle Springs have no town pride, but then Quinn is talking to them, and they are a little bit begrudging of, like, friendo or whatever. But Tucker's like, yeah, I love being friendo for these things.
Yeah.
I love being part of this tradition. And the other kids go to the Founders Day thing. If they, yes, it's to pull pranks or whatever, but the big prank was not their plan. The thing that actually disrupted the parade was not their initial plan. They are attending, and they do have intentions to be there and to celebrate in their own way because they are proud of where they come from and each other and their community in a way that the older people in town just cannot see. And I find that to be very true to life as far as being in Quinn's position in a lot of ways, of having basically a lot of the conversations that Quinn has in this book I have had in real life in the past few years since I moved here.
Also,
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, also I love the portrayal of the Founders Day celebration. The way Quinn shows up and is like, you know, I expected this to be hokey and stupid, and it is, just to be clear, but also it's a lot more fun than I expected. I love that.
Yes.
Yeah.
She's such a mood.
I literally reading that entire thing, all I could think about is how much I hate that, like, town party budgets get cut for shit like that. You know, because they need to fund their bloated police budgets, of course. So you don't get to have fun and town pride anymore because...
But we have this thing here that happens every summer, and I work right in the middle of town. So I get to see it and it's huge, and it's weirdly like a big thing for a lot of people, and that was not something that I expected. When I first moved here, I worked kind of in the like strip mall kind of section of town, and that sucked, and I did not get a lot of love for this city out
It's
there.
terrible. It's a
But
shit
then
place.
I started working downtown, and the people who are proud of this town either have founded the business I work at, or they are part of like the downtown collective who all get coffee from us, like, or they're part of the like arts and cultures society and they come and get coffee from us. And I have got to be in the center of that and see like what I've heard, like Noah's complaining about. I've gotten to see people express that frustration to me of there is not, people want the city to thrive, but they don't want to put the money into that. And they just expect the young people to somehow pull it together magically out of their ass.
Fuck, we're trying.
We are. We're really trying. That's the thing, is I talk to a lot of the young people, myself included now, and we all want this to be a place that people love, but it's really hard to do that when the attitude toward us is like, oh, the young people don't give a shit. So I totally related to this book and this story a lot.
Yeah. Well, be careful partying in any like cornfields this year.
I am so scared of cornfields.
Oh yeah, no. I've been afraid of
You will
cornfields
not
for a
catch
long ass
me
time.
in a cornfield under
Throwback-
any circumstances.
Throwback to these two guys that Jeff and I used to hang out with, bad people. But they were in this like development that wasn't even on Google Maps yet. It was so new, and it was butted up against miles of cornfields.
Actually, it was like a hayfield with a.
hayfields.
Well,
I'm
it's
sorry,
like
miles of
adjacent
hayfields.
hayfields and cornfields, I suppose.
My point
Yeah,
stands.
sure, it does.
Bunch of scary ass fields of tall grain.
And the rest of us thought
Yeah.
it was fun to hang out in those fields, and Noah didn't.
I hated it.
I want to talk about two of my favorite characters that I wasn't expecting to die.
Oh no, I'm so ready for this.
I was not, and I messaged Nina about this one specifically.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I was not expecting Janet to
Yeah,
die.
same. Especially not like
after after
Uh-huh.
she was shot with the arrow and everything. I was like, it's just to her shoulder.
flesh wound.
They're describing her as very weak and everything and like struggling and bleeding, but like
She could
she's
come
gonna pull through because she's probably the love interest for Quinn. And we got to see that like develop and flourish and whatever.
And then she gets her fucking head
And
cut
then-
off.
Yeah, gets her head wholly cut off, and I was like,
Oh.
did I just read that right?
Yeah, that's the thing that kept
I-
standing out to me. It's not just that the unexpected characters get killed, it's the way they get killed. Holy shit. They get it bad.
Oh yeah.
I
Yeah.
love the line where Quinn is like thinking to herself about people who have died, and she specifically recalls Rust and Janet.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, oh no, my two crushes are dead. Because that's what it felt like, but more to Janet because she immediately recalls Janet's looks, and it's like, again, girl. But yeah, no, that one did surprise me because I didn't know if I expected her to survive or not, but I expected her death to have more to do with the fact that Rust and Quinn gave her a gun that they told her was loaded. And the moment that happened and kept being remarked on, I was like, this girl is going to get mowed down because she's going to stand her ground in a situation where she should run because she thinks she has a gun.
But then they loaded her gun.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
it
then you're
didn't
like,
help.
oh, okay. And then it didn't help. Yeah.
And then it didn't
for
help.
sure.
Rest in peace, Janet. Love you, girl.
Second character, from the beginning of this book, I fully expected this character to have much more of a presence. And I was kind of always expecting it to pop up again. But Ginger.
Me too.
Yes,
Same.
Ginger got sidelined so hard,
Wish
and then
we got
she
more.
showed up and immediately died. And I was
so sad.
so bummed.
Yeah. But I love her because, like, in the beginning, we see in the prologue her kind of being at, like, the big reservoir party or whatever, full of life and everything, swimming around, like, bright red hair. And then the next time we see her, she's showing Quinn how to open her locker. Her hair is shaved and I think maybe dyed black partially, or maybe her hair is just like naturally black.
Yeah, it's more close to its
dressed way more muted and obviously has a disdain for like Cole and them, and like has separated from the group. And I'm like, oh, there's a story here. I was like, I'm so intrigued by like what's happened with her character, and to see more of like kind of her character's like personality and everything. And then she shows up at the end, and I'm like, oh, this is it. This is where she's coming in, and this is where we're going to see more of Ginger, and then dead. And I was like, fuck.
She's kind of just a piece of like environmental storytelling for everyone else, almost, right?
Yeah. And she's where the kind of this book operating on tropes kind of for me, like, I'm like, because I've read so much and watched so much horror, I'm like, I know what this is. This is a trope that happens a lot. This is the one who came out of the tragedy, like Stan in It, right? Just the one who did not get a stronger bond with everyone else after the tragedy. The one who doesn't want to come back. The one who doesn't want to be involved in this again, versus everyone else who's still part of the group together. And so that I did want more of her, and I wanted more of Rust. We got more of Rust later, but after Quinn met both Ginger and Rust, I was like, okay, cool. Like, I really enjoyed the scenes where she got to know Rust initially. I wrote a note in my my live notes where I was like, this author does a really good job of portraying what it's like to start to get to know someone, and I thought that worked really well with everyone, but especially with Rust. And then Rust just doesn't show up again for a bit.
Yeah.
Which makes sense. I think the sense of missing those characters is, I think, intentional because we're supposed to feel the isolation Quinn is feeling by being yanked into this group of miscreants, TM. But as a reader, I'm like, man, I want more of those too.
Yeah. I love Rust. I love that
Rust
boy.
Rust is such a fun character.
You get to see him a lot more in the second book.
Oh, good. I love it.
Oh, good.
You know who we won't be getting to see more in the next book is Tucker. I was really wanting to have
I love
more
Tucker.
Yeah, I felt so bad
He
for
dies
him.
so early on, and then he just like this is one of my big problems actually with the book, because this is a small thing.
Noah and I talked about this.
He dies first. He dies so early on in the book relatively, and then he's just like practically never mentioned again. When he gets introduced, he's like a big deal as like, him and Cole showing up at school as like a unit. They're like, you get the impression that they're super close, that they're like always doing things together and stuff. He's fully absent for over half of the book. Nobody even remarks on it. Nobody says anything. Nobody's like wondering where he is at the party or anything. Like, it's just...
Yeah, no, that was really...
It's mentioned like once, maybe 1.5 times.
Well, they assume that... They assume that his mom like took his phone and is like on him, so he can't get to the party.
But then like after the shit goes down and we get the time skip and stuff, there's still not any mention about the fact that he's dead, and I don't like that. I feel like that's
or that they found out what happened to him or anything. Yeah. Like just an aside line, but maybe here's the other thing. Maybe there wasn't. I missed it. This is something that I will admit. I do want to reread this one at some point. So maybe I'll regret this later, but I also felt that way.
Yeah,
I just really liked him, and I wanted to see.
I liked him. He was the bro, and I loved the bro.
Classic himbo Tucker.
Classic himbo Tucker. His death was the big point where I was like, oh, slashers as books works though, actually, because I was like, as I was reading it, I was like watching it in my brain as like a movie, and I was like, as a movie, this death is very nothing. But as a book and how it's written, I'm really into it.
The kills were really well described, like, because again, when I'm watching it on screen, there are only so many ways you can do effects for a decapitation or a throat slitting or whatever. But with books, I've read a fair few decapitations in my life, and even recently. And it's like when you have a specific like writing style and whatever, the deaths are much more visceral and interesting
Yeah.
when you get to read them on page.
Even the ones
Yeah.
like the mayor's death in this one, Mayor Jaffers, he would be an absolute throwaway kill in any movie. Even his death, as a character that we don't get much from, don't care much about, his death still hits because it just gets portrayed in a really good way.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of things that would get portrayed differently and decapitations, Janet getting her head cut off and then it describing her body tripping over her head.
Yes.
That would be a slapstick moment in a slasher movie, But in the book, it was like, fuck.
Yeah, it was
That's
gut-wrenching, for
It's
sure.
just
I'm so
insulting.
sad.
Yeah.
But if it happened in a movie, I would be laughing my ass off at it. I'd be like, Nina, you got to see this. Jason cuts her head off and then she trips on her own head.
Yeah.
It's
and
almost
falls
a
into
puppet
It was
master
so
kill.
impactful in the book. It's so impactful in the book that I'm actually almost angry to think about it being funny in another scenario.
Honestly.
Speaking of Puppet Master, Adam, I see you have a 1 hour video where you rank every Puppet Master video. And
It seems like he's a man after your own heart
Yeah.
here, because there is also
there's a Saw video.
Oh my god.
Including Spiral.
No, have you ever
I feel like I
considered
would get
writing a
along
book?
very well with Adam.
Yeah, Adam, I think you and I could be friends. I'm not trying to make you be my friend because
no, please.
that's very weird.
yeah, we don't want to be weird, but we also do think you have great taste,
But also,
or not.
this is just something
Just
that I'm
someone
going to
who
say
would watch
for
all of the Puppet Master movies.
Yeah, what if you
whether
watch
or
his
not you
Puppet
like
Master
them.
ranking movie and he's like wrong about every single place?
you could put them all in last place and he'd kind of be right. Let's be realistic here.
Well, yeah, but like,
But I do want to say, while we're talking about Adam, hi Adam.
hi,
Hi,
Adam.
Adam.
Hi, Adam.
The Twitter profile picture makes me think of Amityville James Brolin. Thoughts?
James Brolin or
Isn't that
Josh
Josh Brolin?
Brolin's
Isn't
dad.
that Josh's dad?
Josh's dad, James Brolin?
Is that his name?
I didn't know this. No, I didn't. I just was unaware. This is not me correcting you. This is me being.
I am.
No, to me, he looks
I'm
like
checking.
old pictures of Martin Scorsese.
Okay, that's.
Oh, he does kind of
okay,
look like.
okay.
Yeah, I see what you're talking about. I'll post a picture in the Bigwig chat.
Oh
There he is.
God, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, no,
it
that's
took
so-
me ages to figure out how to type in
Yeah, I see
Amityville
it.
James Brolin, but yeah, no,
No,
Adam,
100%. That I see it.
Yeah, I love that. That's
Yeah.
great.
just,
If his
you know.
hair
Yeah.
was just a little bit longer at that level of fluff, then he's kind of coming up on Kurt Russell in The Thing.
Yeah, grow out
I would
grow
not
out
have
the
thought
beard
that,
a
but
little
now,
bit.
Like, yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I could see it.
Wild.
Sorry, not to
Yeah,
like,
it completely derail shit.
wildly derail in
Yeah,
two
just a
different directions
suggestion,
at the
Adam.
same
Grow your hair out a
time.
little bit. It might be a good thing. Who knows?
I have.
He already did.
Well, I mean,
I have.
a little more though.
I have two more things that I want to say about
Okay.
the book. One, the cover art for all three books, actually. Yeah, that shit slaps. I
Doing it right.
love. We know this about me because of the way that I've chosen to do my books. Is we love retro looking covers and we love like high rendered stuff. This is great. Looking at this and seeing like the old like Stephen King stuff emulated is so fun. I love that shit. And it immediately conveyed to me what the book was going to try and do as far as like being a classic slasher and being like evocative of all these tropes. It was exactly what I expected to be. There was no miscommunication from the cover through to the story itself. And I really appreciate that because I think as much as I loved Revelator and everything else about Summer Sons notwithstanding, I'm not sure that their covers were as on point as these covers for these books.
I love the cover from Summer
Yeah.
Sons, but it doesn't suit the book the way that this cover suits this book. Also, I just fucking
Yeah.
love the like red monochrome thing. That's awesome.
Uh-huh.
That's fucking awesome. I love it.
It's so hot. I also love the naming conventions that he's using as the series continues. The kind of throwbacks to Friday the 13th
Yeah.
and fucking Child's Play. Love
I
that
can't
shit.
wait till Friendo goes to space. That's what I want. Friendo
That's
takes
yes.
Manhattan. Let's do this. Like,
Adam, that one's free. You can have that.
or Friendo takes Philly might be more appropriate. I don't know.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
you know.
I from the synopsis of book 2, I believe that's already book 2 is Friend Who Takes
Yes.
Billy. So I'm
No comment.
Yeah.
A BRB buying an extra copy to send to Dave and be like, hey man, you know Friendo goes to Philly. And he's like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, no, I love how strong and consistent these books are on their themes and stuff.
Yeah.
What was the other thing I was going to say I liked?
I don't know.
Dialogue.
Yes.
That was another thing talking about this movie versus or this book versus if it were a movie. When slashers have cheesy dialogue in their movies, it's rough. When a book has paragraphs and paragraphs of a teen's internal monologue and then you hear that teen speak, it is not cheesy. It is just consistent. Yeah. And there's a lot of dialogue in this book that I think if I were watching a completely self-serious, like even some of the Scream movies that have been released recently, there have been lines that I was like, and I think that if I had initially been watching this as a movie, it would have felt like that, where it's just like, okay, I get it. Fucking hello, fellow kids or whatever. But with Quinn's internal narration and everything, it never felt like that. There were maybe like Comp had in mind this is funny for Quinn. Otherwise, I took a screenshot of it and I took a picture of it and I sent it to the group chat when I was to my live read when I was initially reading it. Calling Cole Jared Leto was the funniest shit ever. And I was like, Quinn, are you telling me no offense to Jared Leto?
Full offense to Jared Leto. I don't like Jared Leto.
If I had to pick an actor to compare a crush to, and maybe I'm just out of touch, but I feel like Jared Leto is an older person's like pick. Like in maybe like someone who's in their 30s. I personally already Adam, sorry Adam. But personally I would not pick Jared Leto. Personally.
Yeah.
Jared Leto is like, if you're going to pick him as a crush, I think that you probably were a fan of his band.
Ooh.
Back in the day.
30 Seconds to Mars. Yeah.
30 Seconds to Mars. More than you were someone who watched a lot of movies he was in or whatever. But that's my personal opinion. That was really funny to me because I had the thought simultaneously of what 17-year-old in current year thinks of someone attractive as Jared Leto-y. And that was maybe the only time in the book where I was like, what?
Yeah, that's a good two questions for you, Adam. One, why Jared Leto?
Not the main way.
You think he's hot.
Is that complimentary or? And then second question is, how did you get a quote from Clive Barker?
Because this is his first young adult book. His other shit is like hardline horror.
Oh, okay.
Oh, really?
Well, I want to check some of that out.
This is the Clown in a Cornfield stuff is his first touching into young adult in general.
Okay. Kind of like Clive Barker.
I'll have
with
to check out his other
Thief of
stuff
Always.
then.
And also, what I gather from Clive Barker is that he is very involved in the horror book sphere.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I know that he's not doing conventions anymore. I think that he has reached the... Yeah, he recently retired from that. But as far as being just a supportive presence within horror books, he seems to be very much the way that, like, I see a lot of, like, interaction from Neil Gaiman, where he's, like, very supportive of people who are entering writing and as someone who's been there for a long time. That's how it feels like with Clive Barker and, like, his genre, is that, like...
He cares a lot.
As far as, like, being aware that he's a cornerstone and not being a gatekeeper.
Yeah.
I feel like, especially in a situation like that where so early in your career, you got yours and then some, I feel would be very rude to not try and give back to the community that you're a part of and made you, you know?
Yeah, that makes sense. But Nina, I'm so glad you brought up Scream.
Good.
Because I had a point about Scream in relation to these books. So Scream, if you enjoyed Scream 5 and 6, for one, I think you would enjoy this series. But
I'll second that with 1, 2, 3, and 4 as well.
Yeah. This is very Scream adjacent,
very
but
much
different.
But like specifically with 5 and 6, because especially as I've been reading the second one, I've been like, these books must have been inspired by Scream 5 and 6 in some way. and then I looked at it, and these books both came out before, like, the first one came out before Scream 5, and the second one came out before Scream 6.
Yes.
But a lot of their narrative paths are related in some, like, interesting ways.
I noticed that a little bit as well with just the synopsis of book 2 when I read the back. I was like, this reminds me a lot of
Scream 6,
of
Scream
Scream-
Goes to College.
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Like, the first book is very, and I talked about how, like, the first book being turned into a movie, I hope it does well, because I think the second book would work way better as a movie, because the first one is all about establishing, introducing you to these characters, to Friendo, to, like, this situation, and then the second book takes everything and gets to run with it. And like, this is where, like, the core, like, conflict and where a lot of the tension and where all of this stuff gets to play around a lot more, and it's really great. I like it.
I'm so
But
excited.
it reminds me of Scream 6 because, like, the brutality of the kills is, like, turned up, and then, like, the characters, you know them a bit more, so you get to play with kind of, like, interpersonal, like, dynamics and tension, and I don't want to say anything, but Scream 6 played around a little bit with certain concepts that the second Clown in a Cornfield book, like, takes and just runs with.
That's
and
so good.
explores, like, very deeply, and it's incredible, and I love what you're doing with it, Adam. Great job.
That's what I was hoping for when I saw the
but-
synopsis was like, because not to say that I was disappointed in Scream 6, because I wasn't. But
Yeah.
it is some things where, like, when I saw the premise for Scream 6, I expected more of certain elements because of the setting. There were certain things that really excited me about the concept that they took it a different direction, and that's fine. But I was like, man, I would have liked more of things from early on. So I'm hoping with Clown in a Cornfield.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it a lot. But yeah, so I'm glad you brought up Scream, because I wanted to make that point anyway. And then you just gave it to me on a silver platter, and it was very nice of you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I also would like to talk about the most tense scene in this book for me. Which is the end, where they're all kind of at the factory. The sheriff is basically defeated at this point where it happens. And, like, Arthur has been shot and is kind of on the ground. Quinn still has her gun and everything, and things are still pretty, like, high tension. But for, like, the past couple chapters, we've also been checking in with
Glenn.
Quinn's dad, Glenn.
Yeah,
And
I know what
he's
scene
like,
you're about to say.
I'm breaking out of this little prison. They're not paying attention to me anymore. I can hear this conflict going on upstairs. I put on this person's clown suit that I was operating on as, like, a disguise in case people run into me. And he's running up. Quinn has a gun and is very, like, PTSD, like, high pressure moment of, like, I'm shooting fucking clowns. And I was terrified.
Yeah.
I was like, I see this coming, and I hope it doesn't happen, because I will be heartbroken, and I am terrified. And then Glenn finally, like, breaks through and everything, and Quinn sees him and tries to shoot him, but she was out of ammo. And gosh, I was just so, like, that tension of, like, you know this thing is coming, and you're so scared for it.
And the great thing was that I didn't doubt that Adam would do it.
Yeah.
I was like, he could do that. I don't think that this book has not pulled its punches at any point so far. Even with Russ turning out to be alive, I was like, I kind of expected that. It's the typical horror movie play of we didn't see the body.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that he wouldn't have killed Rust. It was just more interesting to keep him alive. And in this situation, Quinn killing her dad could be more interesting than letting him live. So I was like, maybe it'll happen, but thank you for not doing that.
Now, can I say what I think is one of the funniest parts of the book is in the last chapter when it's revealed that Quinn's dad's gonna be the mayor. I thought that was so funny. The man who's
Yeah.
been in town for 2 months, and then he shows up and is just like, well,
Some horrible things just happened.
you know, you all trust me as your doctor, I guess, but what if I was the mayor?
There is a sickness at the
And I
heart of
love
this
that
town,
so
and I must cure it.
I love him dearly. Glenn is a great character. I loved getting to be in his head because I loved how
Setting his alarm to be like, stop washing dishes, start washing dishes. And just like, brother, please.
Set the alarm. Start marrying. Oh.
I'll put this on my schedule. I guess I have to do it.
that was another thing that in a movie I would not have enjoyed Glenn as much, but getting to get his internal monologue and getting to see him having his little Bones from Star Trek moment where he's made to operate on someone he doesn't really want to save, and he's pissed and he's like, this sucks. I loved him. I loved getting to see him be like, I am going to do my job because it's the right thing, but I am not necessarily going to be 100% kosher about it the whole time.
And yet he's still frustrated with the conditions that he's working under because they don't give him enough to work with, and he's mad about it because he can't do a good job.
He's a good doctor. He's a good doctor. He's a good dad. He's a complete nerdy man. I love him.
Love him.
Yeah.
You know,
I love Quinn describing how he's been wearing white sneakers all the time because he didn't want to get them dirty and get blood on them.
Yeah.
And she's like, he looks like a total dork. They're too young for him. But
Then Cole's like, hey,
they're cool.
Cool shoes there, Mr. Quinn.
Mr.
Yo,
Quinn.
Mr. Quinn.
Oh, so you could call me Maybrook. Glenn.
You know who else I
man.
love as a character, but in a very different way? Sheriff Dunn. I
Oh,
love
Sheriff Dunn is an
I
excellent.
love the
God,
way that
what a-
motherfucker is written. Oh my god. The way
What a sack of shit.
like from the moment he is introduced, the description of like the gravitas, the regard that he holds in the town with everyone, the description of the Improvement Society meeting where he just eclipses the mayor. I fucking love all of that. And then also just as like a killer character, man is stone cold. I fucking love the scene where he has Cole in the back of his car and Cole hits him with his whole speech about the way that like all the problems are actually the old people's fault and they just like blaming it on the young people and blah, blah, blah. And he's right about all of it. And Sheriff Dunn just listens and he lets him finish and he says, "That was beautiful, Cole. I should put that into your suicide note." I fucking love that.
That's
oh my
hard.
god. That line goes so hard.
Yeah.
He's a really interesting character for me because starting this book, I didn't read a synopsis, I didn't read the back or anything. And so going into it, I was like, I initially thought this would be some sort of supernatural clown.
Yeah, I was
in a
expecting
cornfield.
like Kids Bop It or something like that, right?
Yeah. And so as like the sheriff was introduced and as we see him in these town hall meetings and everything, I'm like, this is a very interesting character. And I was like, I could see him either being a villain and an antagonist or kind of like the brusque like sheriff that eventually like comes around and like helps the group. And I really wasn't sure like which direction it was going to go until the town hall meeting where he's like, I need like my crew and we're deputizing all of you. And I'm like, okay, now I see where this is going.
Yeah.
But even then you don't know the full depth of what they're doing until later. Because I actually went back and reread that section earlier today. And I was like, oh my god, everything that he's saying is so much more sinister now that I know that like he's been grooming these people toward this conclusion for months. Like, oh my god.
And I think all of the adults were convincingly cartoonish.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
I think they fit the motivation and the setting
They were
really
exactly
well.
what they were supposed to be.
I think it speaks to like obviously like what we said before stands about like small towns having more diversity than people outside of them would think, but there is a certain small town mentality and separation from the world that is also on display here with the adult characters and their kind of I think there's a powerful message here about how the fear and isolation of the adults that like Colt kind of speaks to is failing the kids and turning the kids into these potentially going down the same road in a very different way. And it's very cartoonish, but also like scarily realistic.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed that. Obviously, most small town adults are not going to kill their own kids.
Naturally, of course not.
But like this book reminded me in a lot of ways of Heathers, where it's a lot of like talk about how the adults are failing the kids in a lot of ways. And the adults with Heathers, it's the adults don't care about the kids until the kids are dead. With this one, it's the invincible line of I'll just start over, have a new son, what's 18 more years. That's all of the adults in this book.
Yeah.
They're all like, we'll try again.
The reason it hits so hard, right, is that it's very much echoing an awful lot of like, you know, not to get too political in this very political book, it's echoing an awful lot of what American conservatives have been saying for an awfully long time, is that some people just need to be removed from the productive flow in order to fix society, whatever fixing society means in their minds. And that's very much the kind of thing that Sheriff Dunn is talking about when he goes off on his thing about like how easy it was to convince everyone at the Improvement Society that this was what needed to be done, because all he had to do was like listen to them and give them a little nudge here and there, and they had the idea themselves. Like that's very much what like the, you know, the what's finally being recognized currently as like Republican stochastic terrorism and whatnot, blah blah blah. Not getting too far into that, but like I don't know, I felt like the portrayal of that kind of thing was really really good, really effective.
I think that you're able to turn it into like a microcosm by having it be their own children, and it's more effective that way as a political device. But like, yeah, once you said that, I'm like, oh yeah, this is happening. We are seeing people doing this where they're turning on people that they should be wanting to protect and love because they're scared. They're scared and they think this is the way to fix it.
They've
and
had everything directed
so wrong.
just so wrongly.
You know who the sheriff reminded me of lightly? Was Red Dead Redemption's Herbert Moon being afraid of the British Catholic homosexuals. Yeah.
I thought you were going to say Dutch Vanderland, but
no, because he goes off on this like he goes off on this like rant about how, you know, America's being ruined by the British Catholic homosexuals.
And this is in like
John Marston
the
says,
zombie version of the game as well that he says this, isn't it? He's talking about zombies when he says this.
Yeah. And John says, do you know any British Catholic homosexuals? He's like, I am proud to say I do not.
And John just goes, yeah, all right.
That adds up. So much of what Sheriff Dunn has going on is reeks of I've never talked to a child in my life because they're wrong and stupid. And
when he talks to Quinn at the diner, oh my God, I was right there with her the whole time.
Yeah, that little, hey, ruffle hair, walk away.
I applaud Quinn for not punching him in the balls.
I do not, actually. I would applaud Quinn for punching him in the balls.
See, what I think is great about this, though, is that it really is a perfect version of the adults complaining about all the issues with the kids, but it's actually the adults that made the problems happen anyway. Like, if you didn't raise your kids the way you wanted, that's on you. And if your kids decided that what you taught them was stupid, maybe what you taught them was stupid, maybe you didn't teach them the right way, but like there's a whole lot of like issues with your kids are a you problem.
There's
primarily.
A lot of cause and effect, specifically with the kids lashing out, and it's like, okay, but what came first? The disdain for the youths or the prank videos and everything?
Well, and what stood out to me an awful lot was like, you know, from personal experience, right? When Sheriff Dunn talks about how these kids are so much worse than anybody ever used to be back in the day, it was never blah, blah, blah. I have spoken to old dudes so many fucking times who will trip over themselves trying to tell you all about what pieces of shit they were when they were younger. It's just they didn't have a phone in their pocket the whole time.
Yeah.
They know this.
Some of the shit that
and yet they complain about current day
me.
Kids as though they're somehow like uniquely a problem in a way that nobody ever used to be. Everything's the same. People have been complaining about the kids these days for hundreds, thousands of years.
Yeah. It annoys me because even like millennials for the past few years are complaining about Gen Z. I'm like,
Oh,
bitch,
Yeah,
shut
this
the
is the
fuck
stuff
up.
that we were all
Literally, it's
complaining
We should
about a couple of years
understand.
ago. Like, shut
We
up.
should understand better than the
Yeah.
past generations.
I feel so bad
Young
for
people in their skibbity toilet.
Yeah, I still
feel
don't
so
know what
bad
that
for
means,
Gen
but it's
Z.
fine.
I mean, I'm like right on that border for Gen Z, millennials.
same.
Great.
But-
Can you tell us what skibbity
No
toilet
idea.
is?
Come on, Nina, what's skibbity toilet?
Nina.
I don't know.
Our
Sing
resident
the
Gen
song,
Z.
Nina.
My best comparison is back when TF2 videos were a big thing. You know the ones I mean, when they would use.
I mean, it's made in the same engine, so
It's
yeah.
the same engine. It feels exactly like the We Like to Party TF2 video with the Thomas the Tank engine. Have you guys seen that one?
Maybe.
I'm gonna pull it up.
No, I had
saved.
standards as a kid.
I have it saved on YouTube. It's saved on a playlist of things that made me laugh when I was in high school, so that'll tell you something.
I've tried very hard to forget
But-
most of the things that made me laugh while I was in high school. Apart from
Me
Hot
too,
Fuzz.
but I also did not. I did not get rid of it.
Ooh, Hot
Ooh,
Fuzz.
timeless.
And Hot Fuzz 2, Friendo Lives.
Does Timothy Dalton
only.
come back? Because I'd watch it. Like,
Oh, Timothy Dalton, my
fucking love
beloved.
that guy.
Yesterday, Noah asked me. Noah couldn't remember Pierce Brosnan's name, and he said, "Nina, who's your favorite Bond?" And I said, "Timothy Dalton," and he said, "Your second favorite Bond," and I said, "Oh, Pierce Brosnan." my apologies, Pierce Brosnan. You were great in Mamma
sorry
Mia.
that you're not
No, he
Timothy
wasn't.
Dalton.
No one was great in Mamma Mia. That's why. It's the point of Mamma Mia. Everyone was just having fun.
Everyone was so drunk. But shoot, what were we talking about? Oh, Gen
Young
X,
people.
Millennials, Gen Z. So I feel really bad for Gen Z and Gen Alpha, where it's like I cannot hold any of like teachers on TikTok are talking about how worried they are about the literacy rates with young people. And like it is frustrating, like as a writer,
Yeah.
because it's really frustrating to try and talk to people in the language of someone who was undiagnosed ADHD and started reading it too, and tried to use books that they read like when they were younger and just use words out of those books that I derived the meaning of from context, and to try and use bigger words in conversations now and get completely no-sold or like I ain't reading all that and all that nonsense, right? It does frustrate me a little, but on the other hand, it's like, I get it. What incentive do you have to do well in a world that is just constantly punishing you?
Yeah.
And there's really, like, when I was younger, there was this intense pressure to do well, and now I'm here, and I did fine, but none of that meant anything. I tried to do the things that I was supposed to do upon graduating from college, and it wasn't even that none of them paid dividends. It was just that, like, or that I didn't try hard enough and didn't continue. My mom didn't get it. She was like, why aren't you applying to more jobs? And I'm like, I am applying to so many jobs, and every one of them wants a unique cover letter, and every one of them wants me to upload my resume and then enter all of the same information a second time.
All that to not get called
and
back.
No callback, no rejection letter, no nothing. The ones that I did get calls back from were MLM scams because I was in marketing and they advertised them as entry-level marketing positions. And it's like, do you think I wouldn't love to be doing marketing for things right now? I love marketing. I genuinely do. I love using it for my own stuff. But like, and I'd love to be in a board meeting talking about branding. I'd love that. I took it in college for a reason, but it's for whatever reason just not happening. And it's like we're told to get good grades and to go to a big school and to just have like moxie or whatever, and you'd get a job because that's what our parents could do. And now the younger people are seeing us and seeing how hard it is for us because it's just not happening. So, and we did everything right. So what incentive is there for the kids now to do anything right?
Yeah.
There isn't any.
Yeah, in a world where you're punished equally for doing well and poorly, it's kind of like, well, who gives a shit then?
Yeah. It's incredibly frustrating and rough, and I feel sad watching them wait for something to change and for something to live for when the people who actually have the power to do that seem to have no intention of it.
Yeah.
Anyway, that got
Wow,
bleak.
this is a real
Clown in a
downer
Cornfield.
review on a
Cornfield.
book that we all loved.
But that's the kind of book this
It
is like
is,
what
yeah.
horror is all about.
is.
And it doesn't have to be a book a young adult book, a slasher horror that echoes the modern frustrations
Yeah.
is classic. That is exactly what it needs to be. It doesn't need to have any big plot twists or anything crazy that we've never seen done before. You know, it can just be topical, well written, and deliver on all
Well,
its
it's kind of
promises,
like
and that's what this book
that
does.
one Tumblr post from I don't know who and I don't know how long ago was talking about, right? Where they were like, sometimes if you can predict the next story beat, it's because the storytelling is good, actually. Sometimes
Yes.
you're supposed to be able to see where it's going, and you're supposed to be having feelings about the direction that it's going, all the while that you're getting closer to that end point that you can predict. That's the point. The idea of good storytelling
Yes.
isn't to surprise you, it's to make sure you know the story. And that's something that this
And-
does really well. It doesn't, like, it's not unpredictable, but it still does everything really well.
The Wikipedia has a note on development that says, when writing the novel, Caesar said he wanted to do not so much a throwback slasher as an attempt at a modern slasher with modern themes. And that's been on my screen this whole time we've been talking. And earlier when we were talking, I was like, I mean, it doesn't feel that crazy modern. And then the more we talk, the more I'm like, no, it's all there. I think
Yeah,
that he
it's just-
widely succeeded.
Yeah, it's just brought into the modern setting in a way that no slasher
It
remake
feels
can
timeless.
do. Yeah, like this is what
Yeah.
partway through
this
reading
is
it,
what
I was
Texas,
like, this
the
is
Texas Chainsaw
exactly what I
remake
was about to
wanted
say. Yeah, partway through reading the book, I was like, this is what Texas Chainsaw 2023 wanted to try and be, wasn't it? Like,
No, this
down
is
to the pro-gun messaging where like, but it was so much better operated on in this case.
yeah.
Well, yeah, when you're a guy who's trying to say, hey, sometimes defending yourself against bad people with guns is not the same as being a gun nut. When he's not flying a rebel flag, it's a lot easier to get
Yes.
behind his fucking message.
Yeah, Rust
When
is
Rust is,
100%
like,
a
appalled
better
at the
character than
idea-
Richter is. Oh my god.
Yes.
Yeah. Dude, when literally right before this, I was talking to Nina about it, and I'm like, I don't know if I actually want to talk about this during the actual review or not, but I was worried for a second that this was going to be like the Texas Chainsaw reboot, where it muddled its own message too much in trying to say too much.
Yeah.
And then, no, this book actually said what it meant to say in a normal way, instead of saying, actually, the Proud Boys is right sometimes.
Because I know, here's the thing is I know people in real life that are both like Texas Chainsaw. You said Richter, is
Yeah.
that his name? I don't remember
I
his
know
name.
his name
I know
because I
people in
used
real-
to you.
pictures of him as references for an RPG character that I used in a horror game that we were all involved in several months ago.
Yeah, I remember
Yeah,
that.
the picture that I was using for my character, that's Richter from Texas Chainsaw.
Okay. Yeah.
I thought that you just
I
remembered his
would
name. and I
never
was
have remembered
amazed,
his name
frankly.
otherwise.
But
I don't even remember anyone's name in that movie but
I
Leatherface.
only remember Richter.
I know people in real life who are like Richter, and I know people in real life who are like
Yes.
Rust. I know real life like gay men from small towns who are pro-gun. That is a thing. That is like, and I have the same kind of complicated feelings about them and their reasoning and their talking points the way that I do about Rust. I think he's a very realistically written character, and I think that even in a young adult, where sometimes when you try to write a realistic character with nuance, you can end up inadvertently bolstering talking points that you maybe don't mean to, and I don't think that happened with Rust. I didn't feel. Obviously, I haven't continued to read Rust's character, but with him in this book. If I were to just read this book, I think it was operated on very realistically and very well.
Yeah, I liked it a lot.
Yeah.
Emma with
I
forbidden
want-
knowledge.
Speaking of forbidden knowledge, I want to mention one thing that I find weird
Okay.
about the movie.
Oh, okay, yeah.
About Texas Chainsaw?
No, about the Clown in a Cornfield.
Which is not out
movie,
yet.
Oh, okay.
okay.
Which is
Yeah,
not
what's
out
going on
yet.
with this?
Janet in the book, for those in the audience, is the only character that I can recall that's explicitly given a race.
Yes. The only one. And I know
The
what you're
only
about
one.
to say.
And in the IMDb, they have Janet being played by a white
come
girl.
on.
Is she played by a white girl? I
Okay,
thought she...
like,
I looked that
But
up, I thought it was
Quinn
somebody else.
is
IMDb this.
an Asian girl.
Wait a
Okay.
minute. Maybe they got it mixed up.
well, that's confusing.
Yeah. I'm like,
this is kind of just...
it's easy enough to shift around
Sure.
the plot a little bit because, I mean, Janet understood kind of the outsiderness that Quinn was experiencing a little bit more because, like, she moved to town when she was really little and experienced some, like, microaggression stuff. And so she related to Quinn, like, because of those experiences and, like, had some more empathy towards her and her
so it
situation.
feels like a lot of that dynamic is going to...
It's easy to, like... Yeah, I mean, it's easy to write around that and, like, give some other thing, but it's just weird.
It's just odd. I wonder if that's
why would you...
to avoid the, common criticism is that, people of color largely frequently get kind of delegated to, like, side character
The best
roles.
friend
And
role.
in this case, Janet gets her fucking head cut off. So it's kind of like, well, I mean, maybe you want your one non-white character to be a person who actually survives to the end of the story. I get that, sure.
Well, you could have them both
Yeah,
be
exactly.
Asian.
That's literally what I was just thinking.
But also, Tucker's actor in the movie is black. He's the only other person of color.
That is not true.
That is not true?
Ronnie also.
Okay.
Oh, Ronnie. Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
All right, well, I'm going to reserve any criticism until after we've seen the movie then.
Yeah.
So, because, like, that's...
I'm
Yeah.
interested.
Yeah, we don't... I'll see it. Everyone knows the book's always better
it.
anyway.
Come on.
Yeah, everyone does
Yeah,
know
I'm
the
gonna
book's always
watch it.
better anyway.
It's just weird.
Yeah, agreed.
And I wanted to call it out.
I'm
Okay.
curious.
We don't have Noah's notes this time. Does anyone else have anything big to say right now?
The second book is good.
Yeah, I don't know what other, like, burning thoughts I have.
Oh,
on
I
this
have
one.
I have a shout out for Adam.
Oh, okay.
I have something to say
Yeah,
to you, Adam,
Adam.
directly.
Oh, God. If you're
I am
listening.
80% of the way through the second book, and there's a character I love, and I swear to Christ, if you kill them, and you know which character it is,
God.
Adam. I know you know. You know which character is that I love and that I care for, and if you kill them, I'm gonna be pissed. And I will burn this place to the ground.
Good to know.
Very normal reactions from the Emma fandom.
I'm sure this is stuff that people
I-
are saying to Adam all the time, so...
Yeah.
I'm sure it is.
Yeah.
I do have my own notes, my own live reading notes.
Oh, Nina did
Nina's
live tweet this
Okay.
full book to the
So
server.
I'm happy to do
Nina's
Nina's
notes.
notes.
Well, Noah has to read Nina's notes.
Oh, Noah
Yeah,
does
'cause
have
this
to read
is
Nina's
Okay,
Nina's
notes.
novel
there it is.
notes, actually, so it's a separate section.
All right.
Sorry, it keeps
That is
flashing
ramen.
pictures of other people's food in my
In your
notes.
notes?
They are not going away. That's just going to keep happening.
It's late March. You know what that means. Time for me to live post my casual obsession reading.
Okay, you don't have to
It
read
is
every
early
single
April,
one.
actually.
It's a lot of me talking about Quinn.
Uh-oh, the
being-
jock volleyball girl got all shy in front of the punk girl.
Ooh.
That's in all caps for the record.
Block caps. Let's see. I get to... Okay. Sorry, there's not a lot of, like, readable notes right here.
Yeah.
But we're into the spoiler section that got blocked so that I didn't miss things. And it says, Noah, don't read this. Hidden by spoiler tag. Then it says, I swear to God, if this is fucking Hot Fuzz again. The guy who's
Oh my
only
God,
seen Hot
so-
Fuzz voice. Starting to get
I have-
major Hot Fuzz vibes.
I have to tell a story. And you all know every person in this call knows this story, but I'm telling it for the audience. So, Nina finished the book first. I assumed Jeff also finished the book.
yeah.
And Jeff posted in our bigwig chat, which the rest of our Discord server can't see, and
Get dumped on.
was like, chapter 9 spoilers. I really liked when, and then spoiler. And Nina was like, oh my gosh, yeah, that was my favorite part of the book. And so I was really excited to
Yeah.
get to chapter 9 and to see and to finally read the spoiler and contribute to the conversation in a meaningful way.
Mm-hmm.
And so I finally finished chapter 9. And I was like, okay, I wonder, like, what happened. And so I finally clicked and read the spoiler, and it was like, I really like the part where the clown is in the cornfield.
Now,
I posted and I was like, I'm on chapter 10, and I was so excited to come look at the spoiler, and now I'm disappointed. Cue Nina and Jeff laughing their asses off in chat. Then a few days later,
because
No.
seeing all the book talk, I have been ignoring the host chat. I'm like, Nina will tell me if anything important happens. A mistake.
so then Noah like posts in the chat and just kind of like replies to that message where Jeff like spoilered the part and just says bruh. So they got both of us with a shitty dumb
with a day and a half
definitely-
long slow burn twofer. I'm never
Yeah,
gonna
for
do
real.
better than this.
I did not think it was going to do that, because when I said that was my favorite part of the book, the tone that was written in to
Yeah.
me was, oh yeah, that was totally my favorite part.
I wrote it fully expecting that you would just click on it and see it, and it would be
Yeah.
just a stupid throwaway joke, and that would be the end of it. But no, it took long enough that it got funnier.
I was upset.
Oh, that was so funny. Oh my god.
This is the end of the Casual Obsession horror movie podcast, where we talk about
Aw.
horror movies and books sometimes. Because I have been betrayed.
Speaking of things, here's some notes. This is just a block of notes from Nina. Quinn, if you don't stop observing details about girls, she's thinking about how good the bully smells. Also, get Ginger the punk girl back on screen. I miss her. Screenshot from the book. Or picture, I guess I should say. Quinn sniffed and realized she could no longer smell Janet's perfume because Matt stank of booze. And followed by
Fucking
Nina
Matt.
saying, Quinn, I am begging you. A spoiler for me, they're doing a lot to try and deny the hot fuzz allegations who the first two victims are, but I am not convinced. Let's see.
For as much as we keep
Nina made this really strange choice to abbreviate Clown in a Cornfield to KIACF, capital C, lowercase IA, capital CF,
Oh.
because
Nice.
it seemed easier.
I had a whole debate over whether or not clown in a cornfield is one word or not, but it
It's
doesn't
one word.
matter because
I petition that we should just call it Clownfield.
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 Yeah.
I'm here. We're done. Good.
Yeah, I'll be a clownfielder.
I made a My Immortal joke. I forgot about that.
Yeah, Nina made a My Immortal joke, but then someone in the chat was like, was this the author making a My Immortal joke, or is this you? Because he didn't understand it was Nina making the joke. And Nina's like, no, that was me. He's like, oh, thank God. So, Adam, I knew
note
you
for
wouldn't make a
next
My
time,
Immortal joke.
You should make a My Immortal joke in book 4.
There you go. The audience
You
will
don't have
love
to
it,
do that.
Adam.
The audience will love it.
You don't have to do that, Adam. You don't have to listen
If
to
there's
us.
one relevant
Listen to us when we say
reference
we
that you
really
can
liked your
make
book.
right now, it's My Immortal. All the kids are reading My Immortal right now.
Nina's just constantly will not shut up about Hot Fuzz.
There's
With all these
For as much as we
about
keep saying this, it's not so much like Hot Fuzz that it comes across as unoriginal or anything. Like, and also it is a favorable
Nina,
comparison.
It is a favorable comparison.
Nina's over
absolutely.
here loving Quinn's reaction to Cole and Rust, being like, "Oh wow, good for them, ally."
God, these bitches gay. Good for them. Good for them.
Good for them. Literally. But yeah, most of my notes, when I get to the plot twist where it's everyone, including Cole's dad, in the refinery, and I just typed in all caps, Hot Fuzz confirmed. But there had been no less than like 6 separate notes of me being like, I think it's Hot Fuzz, guys. And it's
Yeah.
but yeah, I think that's it for Clown in a
It
Cornfield.
is.
Um
Good book. Love it.
We would like to we would like to recommend you pick it up. If you listened this far, you really should have read the book.
Yeah.
In my
Yeah.
opinion, this is the Casual Obsession Book Club, not the Casual Obsession Book Voyeur Club. All right.
Yeah,
Learn to
weirdo.
read it.
But you should, if you did get this far and you haven't read the book, you should read it, and you should read book 2. Book 3 comes out in August.
August
yeah.
20th. We got a link in the podcast description that'll take you to book 3 because that's the pre-order one, but you can also find the rest of his shit there. It's his Amazon page. I've got a link to his website in here as well, so you can, I don't know if it just redirects to Amazon from there as well or not, but you can at least try and buy directly from him, yada 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 yada.
If you do read the first and second books and you want to talk about the second book with somebody, talk to me about it, because I desperately want to talk about it.
I'm going to start now that I'm done with Between Two Fires, which was my big read of the year. I do have other books I want to read, but because these are such easy reads, I'm probably going to push Clown in a Cornfield 2 up to the top of my list.
Let's go.
And then,
Breeze through it anyway.
yeah, I assume that we'll probably gab that when we finish it. But, yeah, hopefully we will. I don't think we'll do, I don't know about you guys, but I don't think we'll do Clown in a Cornfield again next year because we do books so infrequently. I don't want to.
Yeah.
We can't
Yeah.
lock into a franchise.
We can't lock into a series.
Yeah.
series.
But
Man, now I did the movie thing.
yeah, it's been a real struggle. But yeah, hopefully we'll find another good one. I am more consistently reading books this year, so maybe I'll discover one that's good that I read and is good, and then we read it.
Maybe I'll make us all read Dune next year.
I do not
when I
think
finally
so.
I don't know about
finish.
doing it for the podcast, but
It's not
I have
horror.
been meaning to read Dune,
Dune
for
Messiah
years.
next year.
But yeah, thank you guys for listening. You can find us on our socials at Casual Horror Pod on Twitter and Tumblr.
Nina is taking over Twitter
I am
activity.
taking over Twitter activity. I am doing it. I am going to make sure that things get posted there. So yeah, you can follow me personally at Nina Wolverina on Twitter and on Instagram. You can also follow me at House Usher Rises for horror specific content. I post art that I do, and I also wrote 3 books. Only one of them is horror, and it's not that horrific, in my opinion, but also I am desensitized. So you can find all of those through the links in my bios across social media. And also, I am here with Noah.
Hello, I'm Noah. You can find me as Bubbadabad, Bubbadabad on Twitter and Letterboxd and other stuff too. I am continuing my goal to watch 366 movies this year. And I am, give me 2 seconds to see, fucking hell, I keep clicking on the wrong
How many
tab.
days
I
into the
am
year?
so far this year at 114
Holy
movies.
shit.
We
I
are-
don't think that counts the
Wow.
rewatch of Love Lies Bleeding. What
Noah
day
is
of the
like
year
a
is it?
third of the way through.
Holy shit.
Well, we're a third
It
of
is
the way
day
through the year. So.
At time of recording, it is
Well,
day
the end of the month will be a
94
third
of the
way through
year.
the year.
And yeah, so I am 30% through my goal at about 30% through the year. I'm on
Fuck
track.
yeah.
You know?
You can miss like a couple weeks and
I can
still
miss
be
a
on
week.
track.
A week.
Okay.
Wow.
Nice.
2
Well,
weeks.
I don't.
I thought, yeah, thank you. That's what I said.
Almost 3 weeks.
Jeez.
I'm almost 3
I
weeks
know
ahead.
math. I
And I'm
was
gonna
in
keep up with
accounting
it.
for a year.
My current next goal is to watch all the James Bond movies in order because some
Oh,
dude
God.
posted about it on Twitter, and I'm like,
Yeah.
what if I did that?
Let me know when you hit View to a Kill, and then I will rejoin for
Yeah.
the remainder.
Yeah, Nina will tap in for View to a Kill, Dalton, and Brosnan, and nothing else.
Yeah.
Yep.
Fair. I guess.
I can't wait for Desmond Llewellyn to be my top actor of the year because he's in so many Bond movies and he's just going to eclipse every other individual
I think he
movie
was
I've
also in
seen.
the
another
best.
movie that we watched recently.
I don't think I've ever seen him in anything other than James Bond. He's just cute to me.
Yeah, same here.
In any case.
But that's my goal. Anyway,
Yeah, I don't have any
about
grand
Jeff?
quests or hundreds of movies to my name, but you can follow me on Letterboxd at The Fakest Fan. I'm trying to get better at actually using it consistently. I'm doing okay this week. You can also find me on Tumblr at What Is It You Pray For?
And I'm Emma, also known as Emma Panada. You can find me on Twitch and Twitter at Emma Panada. I'm also writing a TTRPG called All the Witches. You can see that at allthewitches_ on Twitter. And yeah, thanks so much for hanging out with us, everybody. We really appreciate you. And, you know, Adam, we really appreciate you listening to this episode and
Thanks,
hanging
Adam.
out with us this entire time. Yeah, thanks, Adam. But
Buy Adam's
have
books.
a great buy Adam's books. He's great.
Loved Clown in a
But
Cornfield.
thanks so much. We'll see you all next time. Goodbye.
Corporate Noah voice. Speaking of things that are not accessible to new viewers, this bit at the end of the episode is not exactly accessible to people unfamiliar with the brand of humor that Casual Obsession provides.